Yeah,
They gotta turn on the cameras, so
there's a wizard in the corner back there. So.
I'll give you a green light in a second. You're ready to go. I'll get to those after.
There you go.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the Wednesday, February 7th, 2024 Litchfield School Board meeting. I would like to call the meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Are there any review and revisions of the agenda tonight?
I have a few items I'll address in school board comments.
Okay, sounds good. Hearing nothing else, I assume there's been some link slide and that kind of usual changes?
Exactly. So we
Okay.
now have everything complete, and there were some updates to some of the documents which you would expect.
Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda, to the board members present, and I will ask if any other board members come along, and I will check with them. But is there any committee reports that any board members would like to see moved for discussion purposes out of committee reports?
I'd like to move budget committee and just a recap of the budget committee meeting.
Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and add that to old business, so we will get there. Anything else? Hearing none, we'll move into a summary of our non-public actions from the January 17th, 2024 meeting. Ms. Harrison made a motion to approve the January 3rd, 2024 non-public session minutes. Mr. Plansky seconded the motion and the motion passed 5-0-0. The summary from our non-public actions from January 24th, 2024, Mr. Cutter made a motion to approve the resignation of Jacqueline Hathaway Rubé. Ms. Harrison seconded the motion and the motion passed 5-0-0. As a reminder to the public, and just because we're talking about a summary of actions, the board did have three extra school board meetings between our last meeting and now. We had one on the 24th, which was a non-public. We had one on the 30th, which was a public meeting. And we did have public attend that meeting. However, it was not recorded. But we have very clear minutes from that meeting. And then we had another non-public last night for the purpose of the superintendent search committee for our group to meet with the candidates. Just to put that out there and be clear on that. We will move into presentations and recognitions, and we are lucky to have with us tonight members of the Hudson Litchfield Rotary Club, which up until about 2 months ago I did not know existed and did not know included Litchfield. So I'd like to have you guys come on up. You can identify yourselves. All three of you are welcome. Drag a chair up. The microphones catch the conversation better if you're near them.
Okay.
And we have pulled up your PowerPoint, and so welcome.
Thank you very much for having us to speak with you today. So, my name is Alejandro Urrutia. I'm the president of the Hudson Litchfield Rotary Club, and with me is Sean, and is Reese, that is the youngest Rotarian. I am not the oldest, but I am kind of used, so a little bit used only. So there is, so the Hudson Litchfield Rotary Club was founded with many members from Hudson. So I wonder if you can.
I don't.
That is okay.
Yeah,
that
if
is
you
perfect.
point at it, I will.
Oh, all right, perfect. So there is, there was, as you can see, there was 22 members at that time, and what happened is there was many of those members were actually from Litchfield. So it was 45% of the members or the membership of the Hudson Litchfield. So they were from Litchfield. That is why it took the name of Hudson Litchfield Club. And we have been working with both communities. You can change that. So, and we have been working with both communities since that time. But let me tell you a little bit more about Rotary Club itself. The Rotary Club has become an international organization that is working on several issues, for example, fighting diseases. There is something many people, they don't know, but the probably the most important organization worldwide working to eradicate polio has been the Rotary Club. Rotary Club is working with many other organizations to accomplish this. Rotary create a model to eradicate polio, and that model has been an inspiration for other groups like Médecins Sans Frontières, World Health Organization, and the Red Cross International and American Red Cross to do other fights against polio. There is another project that we has been worldwide that is Clean Water Project. So there is that is also very important for health is water. Even not only there, even here in the United States, and that is very important. Is for the Red Cross has been very important also to collaborate about the clean environment against chemicals on the ground, on the water, on the environment. So we have been collaborating with many other organizations that will take that task as a core project. Later on, Sean will a little bit talk about these some projects that we have here, and that is I don't know what is that, but
That's never happened.
That is. But also, there is disaster response. For example, there is or interest on health also connect us with disaster response. There is many things happen around the disaster, like for example, the presence of hepatitis. We did a project with international, with groups on Central American International Red Cross. We did a project against diseases after Hurricane Mitch, for example, in Central America, like dengue, for example. And also we has been doing, helping worldwide in give food and deliver food, not only after disasters, but also to communities that they are vulnerable, even locally here. We have a food rally for the Hudson Food Pantry. So with this is mean that is not only we are an organization that we are thinking about things that are far away from us. It's here, locally. So the food pantry and also the education. Education is extremely important, but all the things we have been talking is important because the education helps to have a better quality of health care, preventive medicine, and all of those things are tied with education. Also, to have a clean environment is important for education. That is why even we work worldwide about education, we are that locally. And that is something that is very important. One of the things that we do is to give scholarships every year to the students of Litchfield and the students at Hudson. Now, we mentioned before how also there is, if we want to go back to that, there is we talk about tool ships because always we think students they need to go necessarily to a college education. Not always. There is students and they decide to have another technical work, doing mechanics or electricians or you name it, no? And that is why the Hudson Litchfield Rotary Club also give we call tool ships. That is very important for someone that is going to be a mechanic or plumber or whatever they decide to do, is to have the tools they need for their trade. So there is, again, 40% of the Hudson Rotary used to live here in Litchfield. And we have none at this moment. And we want to continue working with the community. We want to continue giving service to Litchfield. The Hudson Litchfield Rotary Club is a small club, but it's a small piece of a very large organization with many resources. And we can use all those resources. And also we can concentrate on helping our immediate community by doing is by working, for example, scholarships and other projects. For example, is we would like to do soon is a food rally also for the food pantry of Litchfield. But we need the collaboration of the citizens and the residents of Litchfield. So we need you. So we cannot do this alone. And I understand that it's challenging for many non-profit organizations to have volunteers. I know there is challenges, but it's possible. We can adapt and we can do the best we can in order to accommodate and to have members of Litchfield joining us. That is the main message I would like to bring to all of you, to help us to bring people to the table. We are going to begin to have one of the meetings is going to begin to be here in Litchfield, so the people can join and get to know us. You see, there is we talk about the environment. One of the things that is important for the environment is recycling. So I'm going to ask Sean is to talk a little bit about the recycling that we are going to have. So the effort of recycling, and also I want you to talk a little bit about the scholarships.
Okay.
Thank you.
If I may, thank you. Thank you for being here tonight and allowing us to join you. And I'm Sean Duffy. I've been in Rotary since 1981. I've done a lot of Rotary in different clubs. I've been to 22 different international conventions, but I just do want to share one thing. Elaine, your past principal here,
Superintendent.
was a superintendent, thank you, sorry. She was a principal from Florida, and she was very active in our club and president a couple different times. One of the most fun things that I enjoyed with her leadership was as a president coming to your graduations and doing scholarship nights. And I've done a lot of Rotary and I've done a lot of scholarships. It was really great to be on that stage with a population that was graduating. I wish we could have given everybody $100 or $1,000 that night. But what a great school you've got here, so congratulations. And our recycling is, just briefly, 98% of what we get turned in goes back into the stream. It gets taken apart by a company in Nashua, and it's really good for the environment. And if it's appropriate and okay, I'll just pass along a little poster if you can take a little bit of information back to where you work or whatever, and just know that we're doing lots of different projects. Mm-hmm. And if I could leave with the younger gentleman, a couple of Spanish translation. Can you get them to the Spanish teachers at your school there too for us, if that's appropriate to ask for? And can stay a lot later. Just need some business people and volunteer to join us as you've volunteered your time. And I want to thank everybody for every minute we've ever been able to work on any project, cleaning up the parks. Just thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
So do you have any question for us?
Yeah, I think it's important to understand how this came about, and the presentation came about. So I'm gonna ask Ms. Harrison to speak about the event you attended.
Sure.
And then I think we're looking for areas of collaboration. As we're the school board, so we're not necessarily the select board or involved as much in the town politics of side, but we are. And so I think what collaboration is available for some of our students for internships or externships, or where is there room for collaboration? So I'm going to turn it over to you first, and then.
Well, the board received an email from Alejandro, and I responded to it, thinking that it, asking us to help us kind of recruit people from Litchfield to join the Rotary, and explaining, the service organization and the things that you already do for our students here in Litchfield that many people may not know about. So I was invited to attend a meeting, which was at Day of the Dead taqueria in town. It was a lovely meal, and I got to meet Alejandro and Sean and Reese and some other members of the Rotary, and talk about some of their worldwide initiatives and some of the things that they've been able to do in Hudson, and hoping to do in Litchfield as well. So I saw it as a valuable connection, and an opportunity, potential opportunities for our students, like you said.
Yeah.
I did share the invitation to that meeting with the Board of Selectmen and the Budget Committee, and asked them to share it with other boards in town as well. And I think, I do believe there was some interest. I posted it on the WhatsApp page, and I do believe there was some interest at that time, so.
And also, I would like to add that this, if there is a project or something that is needed, or even a new idea, or do something that we can do here on Litchfield, we make it happen. So that is, if something with the students or the schools, there is anything we can put or effort to make it happen. So. And so we are open to every idea or everything that is a need of the town, and we are organization of service, and you know, and there is we have like Reese, Sean, and many others. I really believe the most generous things you can give is time. Money is good, of course. We need money, but money is going up and down, and you give money and you recover the money. But the time you give, you never get it back. So I believe is to give, dedicate time to something worth it. That is very important, as you are doing. You are volunteers here. So, but that is, I can assure you, you join a Rotary, and we get your ideas, and you have plans to projects, we are going to work with you to make it happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
No, great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us tonight. We certainly will pass information along to our principals, so that there could potentially be areas of collaboration or community service projects. They certainly are always looking for things, and I can see that's our middle school principal back there. She's already coming up with ideas right now while we're sitting here. So
Wonderful.
she'll be a great contact. We'll definitely share your information, and then again, we know a few people in town, and maybe we'll be able to help build that Litchfield presence, because there's certainly, as a place for Rotary in Litchfield too.
And is it appropriate to also send some emails? We don't oversend emails. We do very few emails.
Well,
But
sometimes I get,
if it's appropriate, we'd like to, you can try to communicate just to listen.
And I think you have
and
Tina's
be-
email
Yep.
for sure already,
Yep, we've been
but
in
she
touch.
can
Just
certainly let us know,
thanks-
but all of us,
Thanks for
absolutely.
letting us be part of the
Do you have the Board of
community.
Selectmen contact information?
No, we've
See, that would be interesting
not
to give
really.
them
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
enabled-
I can
Other
certainly
members
forward that
did
along.
before, but not,
Yeah.
we can share that information.
Yep, I can
Can I ask
absolutely
you to
do
put
that.
that on your to-do list?
Yep.
All right.
and we are going to send you, if it's okay, the schedule of meetings, so you can see when we are going to meet here in Litchfield.
Yeah.
So, and everybody is welcome to attend and
Wonderful.
have some donuts and coffee.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Have a
much.
great night.
You
You're
too,
welcome to
thank you.
stay. You're welcome to whatever you want to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would just like to say that Rotary succeeds best through action and connection and relationship building as an organization. And there can be no stopping that, or no side will succeed.
Very true.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
tip.
Thanks, Reese.
All right, and then for another presentation tonight, we have our middle school principal, Miss Grantham, come on up for her report, and then mid-year update. Is that-
Yes. I'm gonna leave my jacket on because I'm cold tonight, so it's chilly in here.
Always chilly in here.
It's great to see you all again. I feel like we just met. We did. And we have met quite a bit in the last few weeks, as you mentioned, the non-publics and the publics. So I have my principal's report tonight, and I'm going to try to keep it super brief in regards to the principal's report. A couple of things that we have to share in that area is our kindness cards that our student council and C3PO are currently selling. They're on sale in the cafeteria through tomorrow, and we have an online link that parents can enter and send their own children or their students' classes or their teachers. Send out kindness cards, because as we're trying to spread that message that kindness matters, that's a place to go ahead and do that. We also, this afternoon, I just wanted to say we celebrated Mrs. Heather Dwyer, longtime 27-year teacher here in Litchfield, who retired medically this year, and it was great to see her at at LMS. Boy, that was a crossover. Sorry, it's been a long week. At LMS, seeing her at LMS with many former colleagues. If you have a chance to check out our Facebook page, we have some great pictures posted. Mrs. Ames, thank you for joining us. Dr. Jetty, thank you for coming over and really celebrating Mrs. Dwyer the way that she deserves to be celebrated. And we're sad to see her go, but I think it was a nice way to send her off today. And lots of former, we saw Mrs. Sidlow and Mrs. Langton, and lots of retirees were there this evening. Other than that, we do have on the bottom of our report our iReady scores. So the chart there, one of the things that I'd like to draw attention to is that we're in the right trajectory. So the top right quadrant of the screen there is high performance and high growth of where our kids are in iReady. And each of those dots represents a grade level. The first one is for reading. That off the chart dot right there is our 5th grade. And it goes progressively 5th, 7th, 6th, and 8th. What I will say with the 8th graders, I don't know if anybody has seen the TikTok, and Mrs. Ames and I had this conversation last evening. They figured out if they tank their diagnostic test for iReady, that they get the really easy lessons to complete. So if they choose to do poorly on the iReady lessons,
They'll get a second grade
they'll get a
level.
second grade MyPath, which is part of the lessons and the work that they're doing. So if they're having to do one math lesson, again, I'll remind you that it's one total math lesson a week and one reading lesson a week in the MyPath portion of iReady, which is different than the diagnostic. But the diagnostic does help establish where that path is for them. So they have figured that out, and that is why we see the reflective lowest score for 8th grade there.
Jen, does the teacher have an ability to override that?
The teacher does have an ability to override it, but if they're following, what we're encouraging is that MyPath is supposed to give the students exactly what they need to fill the gaps that are demonstrated in that diagnostic assessment. Teachers can, through assessments in class, through pre and post assessments, reevaluate and do teacher assigned lessons, which at times they do based on, I know specifically Mrs. Bishop, I can think of her doing a ratios and proportions lesson, so she's going to choose some ratios and proportions lessons no matter for everybody to have that reinforcement and reteaching of what's happening in the classroom. She'll assign a ratios and proportions lesson. So the MyPath can be both student driven based on data or teacher driven based on what's happening in the classroom. So that is reading. For math, it's, I'm going to be honest, a little worse. We are in low performance, but still in high growth. So I think that's the part that we are focusing on. Although we are not in the top right quadrant, we are in the top left quadrant. If we were talking about everybody being in the bottom 2 sections, then we'd be very concerned with what was happening. But that one is, hang on, I don't want to misquote which dot is which because it means something. I believe that bottom dot is 7th grade. Sorry. I mean, the bottom dot is 8th grade, again, for the aforementioned, if I tank my iReady, I don't have to do a hard lesson. And of course, the report is not coming up on the iReady dashboard at the moment.
Maybe if you can liven up, no, not for now, but if you can liven up the link, we don't have access to it.
It doesn't allow me to give you access to the link in my dashboard. I had to take a screenshot of the link in order to do
Just
it.
the
Just
report.
report,
Oh.
right, and then we can look at it.
I'm sorry, the overall report you can't see?
Correct.
I'll fix that. Thank you. I didn't realize that was the case.
I will get the numbers for which one is
No,
which
if you
and
want
put
to
those.
follow up with an email and just,
Yep.
or put it on the report
I'll put the
directly
report on
when
where
we
the
look,
dots are,
we'll see
because
it.
if I hover over it on the mouse, it will say what each dot is. For
Yep.
whatever reason, right now, it's not allowing me to get that information for you. But we continue to look at refining practices in instruction, refining practices with how students are performing and what they need for instruction in both math and reading. I think noted the off the charts high performance and high growth in 5th grade reading. Mr. Frazier has been participating in the new reading program that we purchased last year. The kids are finding great effectiveness with that, and that is abundantly clear in how they are scoring and performing. And we are hoping it will translate to SAS, but that still remains to be seen as that is upcoming. Any questions about that?
No questions.
So moving on to school board mid-year goals, which is, well, it was also a clickable link in the other one too, in the report, in the,
This one we can't.
We can get
We
into
can
this
get
okay,
this one.
great.
The other one, I can't adjust it either, so you must have, I don't know how Kayla got it on here, because
I will, should I share it again?
it's really weird, it came up very odd. If I could just frame this to the board, so if you remember, we did goal setting for the year, and then each year midway through, as the principals come through, we have them do a mid-year update just to let the board know where they stand. So this document is called the Mid-Year Update Report, January 24. I probably should have started with CHS last time, but I got off cycle, so we're gonna start with LMS, we'll do GMS next, then we'll do the district report and follow it with CHS when they're next in. So I don't want it to be a separate night for the principals out, I want it to be a do this when you come to your monthly meeting. So having said that, Jen got the pleasure of starting with the
Lucky
mid-year
me.
report, so
So I'll go through really quickly once again. Our progress report on our goals, social emotional learning strategies through responsive classroom, counseling program, PBIS program, and PLC models. This year in the fall, all staff, including paraprofessionals and teachers, participated in a book study for the book called Seeing the Good in Students, which is a responsive classroom resource, since all teachers didn't have that opportunity to be trained last summer as part of the 4-day training. We felt like that was a really important strategy to make sure that everybody was on the same page in regards to disciplining and information and how to engage using the responsive classroom strategies. We created a time for a student advisory at the beginning of BEST to increase that staff connection and that peer-to-peer connection in appropriate manners. We continue the Kindness Matters goal, continuing to tie in with Student Council and C3PO. We have our kindness cards, random acts of kindness, and MTSSB work continues through collaboration within our Litchfield community. MTSSB stands for that multi-tiered system of support, and the B stands for behavior. We've really worked to look at the data and look at where our students are in regards to recidivism for office referrals, recidivism for issues in the classroom, small issues, big issues, and how can we help to intervene before it becomes a really big issue in many parts. What we can say is our C3PO video that our students in C3PO worked on. We have had school communities in Alaska, Florida, 5 schools in New Hampshire, and we just found out 2 in New York yesterday have taken our Kindness Matters challenge with a cereal box challenge that we did. So the word coming just from little old Litchfield is spreading out there. The kids are really excited to see. We have a little chart that we're starting to mark communities and towns that are taking the challenge, and as close as Londonderry and as far away as Anchorage, Alaska. It's pretty nice to see that map reflecting the Kindness Matters message. So it's nice to see that spreading outside of our walls, not just within. The next goal is our personalized best block. So we continue to refine the strategies of how to focus on what individual students need. This includes, as we discussed, the iReady MyPath lessons in both reading and math. Again, that's only 1 lesson per week, and that 1 lesson per week should take about 20 minutes if the students are focused and paying attention to the lesson at the time and don't have, guys, you never have extra tabs open on your Chromebooks, right? Never ever. So
me neither.
me neither. On 3 screens. So if they're focused and paying attention, that is a short lesson, not taking a whole lot of time out of their day or their week. But also, we have built into that best block something that we really found was clear in our C3PO conversations with kids is finding ways for them to feel connected to school and finding their ways to be a part of school. Having those conversations during advisory sessions with a trusted adult that becomes somebody that is their go-to person and set goals and set priorities. Additionally, continuing to offer those accelerations and remediations that students definitely need. Teachers have really appreciated having designated days as part of BEST. Before, it was kind of like luck of the draw. Who could they pull during different periods to make sure kids were getting that remediation opportunity or ability to make up missing lessons or activities. Each grade level has a designated day for language arts, math, science, and social studies, as well as unified arts, which allows them to spread throughout the week. And then typically it involves that Fun Friday activity where the kids can, as they've worked to build that stamina, working for that Friday activity, participate with some great enrichment activities that they've had ongoing. Finally, one of the things that I will say I am very proud of is our communication has such improved. Something that I really strove to make better for Litchfield Middle School, and finding ways to get information out in a clear, concise way. Our links in the loop readership has improved with the easier to click link as you open it from the new way we're sending it out this year versus having to download something that you did last year. Additionally, we have been really successful with our Facebook page. I think we have the biggest following at this point in time of the 3 schools, and we try to keep it interesting and active with all of the awesome things that are going on a daily basis at LMS to get that positive message out there that there are great things happening every day in our schools. Our staff are incredible, our students are incredible, and it's nice to be able to get that message out to people. So, Tea with the Principal is the last thing on there. Have not found great success with that. I'm going to be frank and honest. Trying to, open those lines of communication and getting that voice to come back from parents. The Tea with the Principal has been not very well attended. I think last month it was tea with one parent and I. We had a great conversation, but I want to find a way to engage that conversation of what do you need as parents? How can we help to support that that viewpoint and vision? Start having conversations with kids, and that's great. Having conversations with staff, that's great. But I'd love to get that parent feedback of what's going to make LMS a better place for you as a parent, and how can we work together to make that happen.
Questions from the board?
Maybe we don't have a lot of tea drinkers.
What was that?
So maybe we don't have a lot of tea drinkers.
I even tried to spill the tea, let the tea, I don't know, we have all kinds of things. Oh, I should say, speaking of spilling the tea, we're hoping to have on Tuesday evening, the time will be sent out on Friday. Tuesday, February 13th, will be meet the assistant principal candidates. Our assistant principal finalists will be there at school, able to ask and answer questions of the candidates who are here we've had a pool of over 40 applicants. Which is great for assistant principal at LMS. Wish we could get that many applicants for teaching positions, but we'll take it for AP, and we've got some really strong candidates that we're hoping to be able to put through. We've had a great committee that represents all grade levels at LMS. We've had 1 teacher from each grade level, 2 teachers from the Unified Arts, a counselor, special educator, some representation from the SAU. So we're kind of weeding through the pile and be ready to present some really solid candidates that we'd be happy to have as our assistant. We'll miss Mrs. Thayer immensely. We don't want her to go. If we could hold on to her leg as she thinks about leaving, we totally would. But we know that she's excited to be with her grandchildren and start her retirement soon. And in the meantime, we will be looking for someone to fill those very big shoes.
Can I ask briefly, I want to say late fall, there was a bit of a social media situation where parents were concerned about lunch and what was happening during lunchtime. And you put out an invitation for parents to volunteer for that lunch hour, for any of the lunches for 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th. Can you just give the board an update as to how many parents have done that?
Hang on, let me look at my schedule.
None.
We did put that. We put that application out. We continue to look for lunch monitors. We have Mr. Stevens, who is fantastic. He's one man. Mrs. Thayer is amazing. She is one person. She spends most lunches in the cafeteria. I pop in and out when I have that opportunity to get down there, but we are still understaffed, and that is one of the many places we're
Is
still.
it fair to say that it's still an open invitation
It
for
is
any
an
parents
open invitation.
that wish to volunteer?
Absolutely. Volunteer or get paid. Volunteer to be a substitute. We would love to
but-
have you come in and get paid to be a lunch monitor, because having those extra eyes, ears, and hands in the cafeteria really helps it flow more smoothly and would be helpful. That, amongst many other areas, we're hiring a Spanish teacher, paraprofessionals, and a lunch monitor, and an assistant principal. So if you're interested in any of those positions, look at our website and please join us. We'd love to have you.
Any other board questions? No? Thank you for your update tonight. We have taken up a ton of your time this week, and we appreciate your help with the superintendent search. So we are not offended in any way, shape, or form if you choose to scoot.
I
After
think
you
I will
report.
take you up on that. It was
I
nice
just
to
want to
see you
make
all.
that clear. So thank you for coming. Appreciate it. Moving on to our student representative report for tonight. We have Mr. Anthony LaPlante here, and he brought a friend, Mr. Nick Hirschberger. So welcome, guys, and looking forward to your update.
All right, so recently we had our student school board representative elections. Nick Hirschberger was recently elected by the student body. Introduce yourself.
I'm Nick. I'm going to be working alongside Anthony. I'm now part of student council, so I'm excited.
So we had our 2027 officer government position elections because they were recently left blank. Rocco DeLucia is treasurer and Caitlin Brown is secretary.
So some recent past activities we've had at the school was the soccer team raised their championship banner during the varsity basketball game at halftime, and their rings are going to arrive sometime this week. And the finalists for the superintendent position met with a group of students, and we asked them some questions.
Hockey is 8-2 this season. Indoor track had qualifying meets last weekend. This Saturday is the state meet. One relay team and two individuals made D2 states. Boys basketball clinch playoffs. They're 9-7, and girls are 5-9. Wrestling has been having meets, and Logan Alaire recently ranked top 20 in all of New England. Winter cheers on basketball, and they have their first tournament this Saturday. Also, March 3rd is their next tournament after that.
Some current events going on at the school. Student council is selling carnations for the Campbell community for a scholarship for the class of 2024, and a student is participating in a math competition at Phillips Exeter Academy.
The student council is making chocolate covered strawberries for every student in the school as a gift. Robotics has 2 competitions in March. Band and chorus district concerts are happening in March, and Campbell's National Art Society is making love bugs for every single staff member in the school, and then it goes out to students as they pass by the hallways, just if they have extras. And I think that's it.
Any questions from the board?
No.
Thanks for your presentation.
Yeah, sounds like a lot going on. We will move into community comment on agenda items. We certainly would welcome anyone from the public that is here to come on up and to make a public comment on any agenda items that are here for tonight. Anybody?
I just want to say, Anthony, I think that everything that you're doing with the school board is amazing. And I think it's so sweet. Chocolate covered strawberries to all the kids. Like, that is just like the nicest thing. So,
Thank you.
kudos to you. I think
And we're
that's
so
wonderful.
proud of you.
I know we are.
You have like
No, I
30
think
moms over at GMS, right? 30 teacher moms that are all keeping an eye on you. Seeing no other public comment, which that was a good comment actually, so yay. I'm gonna go ahead and close community comment at this time. There will be another opportunity for community comment either later in the agenda or at 8 o'clock, whichever occurs sooner. Correspondence, and I'll ask
Yes.
Tina to go ahead and fill us in.
Let me find where we are. So, let's see. It goes way back.
It's been, we did have a 5th week. I
We
think,
did.
So that's been.
I just send emails to the board just to direct,
Just to give me
Great
something
work.
to do. This was about an hour.
Gives
of
us time for a bathroom
cutting
break
and
right
pasting
now.
and entering things, yeah. So let's see. So January 18th, Andrew Cutter sent an email to the board and budget committee with information on the
Start with me.
So, right? With information on the elementary project funding options, including the bond calculator that we discussed at our January 17th meeting. January 18th, Ron O'Blennis sent the school board an email in support of the bond plan approved by the board and offered to help in the future with gaining support for a new GMS. January 19th, Doug Totten shared an email sent to the budget committee with the budget warrant articles, default budget, MS-27, and the tax rate estimate spreadsheet. January 19th, I lost my place. Jan Sullivan sent 2 emails with the draft public and non-public minutes from 1/17/24. Doug Totten responded, clarifying in the estimated obligation in year 1 of the bond included discussion that subsequent years would be higher. The first obligation was around $53,000, and subsequent years would be higher. And Jan Sullivan responded, confirming the change to the public minutes, and then Doug Totten responded saying thank you. January 22nd, Doug Totten shared the elementary bond projections email that was sent to the budget committee chair. January 23rd, Mike Breton sent an electioneering complaint regarding a bulletin board that was visible to voters on primary day. Reply from Mike Jetty explained the town request to use the school's bulletin boards, and a reply from Terry Briand, the town clerk, explaining that the bulletin board was removed when the concern was raised. January 24th, Mike Jetty sent the 1/24/24 agenda. Mike Jetty sent the Google Meet link to the 1/24/24 meeting. January 25th, Andrew Cutter emailed seeking additional information on past bond votes for the elementary school, and an invitation to all board members to attend the budget committee meeting the following night, or that night. Replies from Matt Shoemaker and Heidi Ames in agreement and support. January 25th, Andrew Cutter sent prepared remarks for a budget committee meeting on 1/25/24. January 26th, Doug Totten sent the MS-27. January 26th, Doug Totten sent a notice of board and budget committee signatures needed on the MS-27, the default budget, and other forms at Town Hall. January 26th, Jen Grantham sent a copy of the superintendent candidates and forum press release that would be released later that afternoon. January 29th, Kayla Collins sent a Google Meet invitation to the emergency meeting on January 30th. February 1st, Jan Sullivan sent the draft minutes from 1/24/24, the public and non-public sessions. February 1st, Holly Falzone circulated the superintendent candidate application packets for the 2 finalists. February 1st, Heidi Ames notified the board of a resignation of an employee. February 2nd, Mary Woodman sent the agenda for the February 6th non-public meeting, which was last night's deliberation and discussion of the superintendent candidates, with a response from Heidi Falzone in thanks. February 2nd, Anna Namarati sent the manifest for the 2/7 meeting. February 2nd, Kayla Collins sent the meeting agenda for the 2/7 meeting, and I believe that gets us caught up. But if not, I will include the next ones in next meeting's correspondence.
Thank you very much. Moving into general business for tonight, we have to start with the superintendent's report.
Thank you. So the enrollment report, this is the monthly report. This time I actually added some numbers in on it because it's been kind of unremarkable all year. And then I think with the transition this semester, we've had more ins and outs than what we typically see. So at the bottom, you can see by grade level where we added or subtracted a student because they moved out of the district. But overall, the district started with 1178 in September, and we were at 1175 by November. Or by December, I'm sorry, and then we gained 7 in the month of January. So I think it was the mid-year shift. 3 of those were at the high school, but then there were 2 at the middle school and also 2 at the elementary. So those are the numbers, and we're going to get to the point they'll be opening up kindergarten, and we'll start to track those numbers fairly soon because it's about that season. But for now, those are the enrollments.
Any questions on enrollment report?
I know we've talked about the thought or concern about the kids in 8th and who will be attending in 9th, right? Mm-hmm. Is there a way to get a pulse from the middle school on potential kids that they're thinking won't be here next year?
We can work on that. We'll get you a number. We don't have it tonight.
No,
or
that's all right.
Whatever,
Yeah.
but let us work on some way to get a feel for that.
Okay, thank you.
And so we can anchor on it. I mean, we started with 89 eighth graders. At one point, we dipped down to 87, but now we're back up to 88. So the class has been relatively steady. We're predicting all 88 to move on to the high school, but that's not always the case. But we do end up picking up other students. In the past, historically, we pick up other students from other school settings who have not been with us at middle school, but then join us for Campbell. So, but we'll work on getting a number there.
Any other questions on the enrollment report?
And then the last thing, I just wanted to acknowledge, I was out of the office last week, and so true to form, Mary ended up having to make a snow day and all the fun stuff that goes with watching the weather and calling all the people and trying to make a decision. And it's the nature of being in charge when it's January. So I appreciate all that she did in order to make that happen. And the number of moving parts, I'm not even sure the board fully understands everything that goes on in order to make that decision. But then to call it as a delay and have to change it, that's doubling the amount of decision-making that needs to be made. But in the end, it looks like it was the right call. And we appreciate Mary's effort in doing that. Holly, there were a number of personnel things that just happened to pop up, and so I just wanted to acknowledge and thank Holly for her effort with that. And then Doug inherited all of the legal posting deadlines that needed to be met and properly done. And when you add a bond vote to it, you add scrutiny to the technicality of making all that happen. So Doug, thank you for making sure that we did all of that correctly, so that we are set. And then the rest of the SAU staff, of course, who just pitched in and got stuff done. So we appreciate everybody doing that while there were a million moving parts. So thank you.
Great. Moving into business and operations, it is the first meeting of the month, so there's an update, but there are some additional bullet points that I think Mr. Totten wants to explain, so I'm gonna turn it over to him.
Great, thanks. So the first one is about our reserve funds that we have, so wanted to kind of start that conversation as far as the purpose again, as well as where we want the balances to be. I think it's a start of a conversation because there's multiple reserve accounts that have different purposes, and you know, kind of discussing it over a couple of meetings could make sense as well. So the link that's provided in there is a link that everyone's had access to in Litchfield since the start of the year, and the last two tabs on the bottom are specific to the reserve funds. So the one all the way over to the right kind of gives a purpose of when the reserve fund was set up, and then the one, so yep, so right there, and the one right before that gives the monthly balance as we move throughout the calendar year. So this was brought up at school board at different times with the budget committee as well. And you know, one thing that people have asked about is the building repairs fund. So kind of that rainy day fund. What makes sense for that? So in preparation of this, the cost item that would more typically go, I mean, you could have other things happen, but could be the boilers and maybe the boilers at the high school. So I asked an HVAC company just to give us a rough cost. They didn't come in, but they're aware of the boilers that we have, and they gave us a rough cost of taking those boilers out, putting the new boilers in, reconnecting the piping, and then starting them up. And that cost was around, but probably more than $359,000. So if both those boilers went, that's where we'd be at with that. So I think, you know, we got boilers that could possibly go. We know that when we do a compressor on the roof of the high school, it's been around 10,000. You know, there's boilers at the elementary school as well. You know, our equipment at the middle school is under warranty still, so we're not necessarily going to talk about that to the extent that, you know, we could have something go wrong at the elementary or the high school. So before the building and repairs capital reserve fund was reduced, it was at around that $350,000. And currently we're at $234,000 in there with a warrant article of $125,000 that could be fully funded with fund balance or partially funded with fund balance. So if it is fully funded with fund balance, we're back to around a little over that $350,000 at that point. So, wanted to see if people wanted me to get more information, or what the board's thought was around that one.
I'm curious, is there any recommended percentage or dollar amount? Obviously, I understand it depends on the size of the district, it's gonna depend on the number of employees, the age of your buildings and whatnot. But is there any generic recommendation either from a state organization or from insurance or from anyone as to what should be in your reserves? Is there any standard set by anyone for that?
Not that I'm aware of, but I can reach out to Primex. I can
I'm
reach out
just
to.
curious if it's like,
Yeah.
oh, you should
No,
always
it's a
have, if your
good question.
infrastructure is worth X, you should have
Yeah.
Y.
I mean, my gut is telling me that we're nowhere near where we should be.
Right.
Right?
Right.
We're talking about boilers only. We're not talking about, you know,
Septic.
septic issues. We're not talking about if pipes burst and, you know, water damage, you know, we have older
Right.
infrastructure, especially at GMS.
Again, and in theory, insurance is gonna pick up some of that cost.
Right, but you
Yeah.
still have to, you know,
You have
there's
to
a
plan for
process
it.
to getting to insurance money,
Sure.
right? Like, it doesn't just magically appear. You
Insurance doesn't
typically.
cover old age,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's maintenance. It's
Yeah.
not something that
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it won't cover something natural.
Correct.
It covers
Yeah, yeah,
something
yeah. Right.
happened
Right.
to
A
it.
tree falls on the school.
Tree falls
that's
I mean, this
different.
is the rainy day fund. I mean, to me, a lot of it will be dependent upon what happens in March and whether
Sure.
we're considering GMS still in the equation or not for this. If we are, I think we need to easily double this amount, right? To have a rainy day that's adequate to meet the needs of the buildings. If the voters decide to pass the article in March, I think it's less, right? I think we cover it to the 350 or so thousand to have that covered for Campbell, right? And if there's something catastrophic or material, we'll have that rainy day fund for it, and we'll have to ask the voters to replenish it at the next election cycle.
My only other concern would just be to note that I think we've taken care of LMS. I hope that's not where this is would
Yeah.
go for. But CHS is how many years old? 24 years
24.
old
Yep.
at this point.
time to plan.
There are gonna be things that crop up that are gonna need to be done just by virtue of our newest building being 24 years old. I don't even claim to know what all those things are, but what is the right amount of money to cover?
Well, and I think that's the big question that keeps coming up, at least what I'm hearing with the budget committee, is like, when we're discussing what's capital improvements versus what's repairs, and where should that money be going? I mean, I do think we need to analyze that a little more closely. But to answer your question, Doug, I don't think that that's enough money, given I mean, even if the school does get voted in,
Still
Yeah,
2
it's
more
still
years.
not-
we still have 2 years.
Yeah.
Yep.
That anything could go wrong, and that's, I guess, the thing that we keep cautioning people is that
Right.
if we have this money in here, it hurts pretty bad to put $400,000 into a school that still you're not solving any of the problems. That's just your tax money just basically being lit on fire.
So definitely, I agree. I think that we're lower than we need to be on the building and repair. So I think, as we talk about it during deliberative this weekend, I think that's something we could talk about with we are lower, and 125 will help out, and, we'll possibly bump it up after that as well. So kind of chip away each year. I don't know if there's thoughts on the other reserved or trust funds at all?
Look, I think special education, that one seems to be, if I recall, pretty steady year over year, right? You tell me.
And is based off of
I thought we had to dip into it, or we're going to have to dip into it. No, not yet.
We'll know at the end of this year. So
Yeah.
we think that because of fund balance due to all the unfilled positions,
Okay.
that we can take care of some of the unforeseen costs in special ed. But if we can't, we have the 161 to help.
Okay.
At one point, we had that up to like 250, I thought.
I don't think so. I think when we established it, and it's kind of crept up to this amount,
Okay,
I think we did a one-time deposit. We may have funded it twice,
yeah.
and then it's been interest growing.
I'd like to see it at least at 200. I mean, we talk about one out of just replacement costing over $100,000.
Well, honestly, that's one out of the blue.
Right,
With
One student.
transportation
Right.
and tuition, that's one.
Or, yeah, fortunately not even one at this point
I was
anymore.
just gonna
So
say.
it's, one could be up to around 200,000.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we could double that. right? To have that account, and that this is always an area the budget committee focuses on as well, right? And so, I think it's safe to double that. I think for the technology reserve, I think, you know, if you have a server or something catastrophic happen from a technology perspective, you're covered. You know, those could be expensive as well, but the idea is that this is meant to offset some of that cost, hopefully all of that cost, but we're also asking the taxpayers to replenish if there's something catastrophic that happens.
If this does come up with the budget committee, though, I just want to be clear, they do seem to focus on this number in lieu of budgeting for the things that we know that we need to budget for based off of actual caseload. And I don't think that doubling this changes the dynamic year over year with the budgeting process. I think we still have to, but this still has to be the emergency of the unforeseeable things.
No doubt.
Yeah. And I just want to make sure that that's clear when we talk about increasing this.
Is there, I guess I have a couple questions, but my last question is there, you know, we have this great, strategic plan with the town in terms of big expenses and planning things out. Is there a strategic plan or a smaller version of a strategic plan regarding the infrastructure for the district? Like, we know that the roof is gonna be due for Campbell here, or we know that the floors are due for.
We know we have a solar payment coming up in.
I'm just curious if we don't, I think that might not be
Absolutely
a bad idea to spend some time. And again, I fully recognize that we are understaffed and that Dave Ross is wearing 50 million hats right now trying to make sure that we stay up and running. So I'm fully aware of that. But I do think it would be prudent at some point to have some planning of just, we have an idea of when various things are going to need replacing or are going to at least be at their age limit.
And I think that that's important because we just heard a story about another district that had to do boilers in the middle of the winter, right? And that's,
And they had been saying for 3 years that it was
Right.
gonna go, and it
Did in December.
Well, it never goes in the summer.
it went in December, right?
So I don't think we have that as of now. I know that where I live, they just put that together, or they started putting that together last year. So I think it is a good idea to start working in that direction, because as we said, you know, Campbell is 24 years old. There's gonna be things that are gonna need to be replaced there at times, and to kind of possibly spread that out could make sense. And, you know, as Andrew said before, the elementary vote is gonna determine that, and the middle school's in a good spot now, but that doesn't mean that everything was replaced at the middle school.
Well, I
But
feel like there was conversation about the gym floor at LMS,
Yep.
and then a gym floor, you know, I don't know where it's at CHS, but how those all build in terms of, yes, they fit into the the town strategic plan, but how does that fit into our own planning purposes?
well, and then we can really back into the numbers for the capital reserve funds that we have.
Yeah.
So again, I'll put this out there. In all your free time, it would be nice to have some type of internal strategic plan regarding our infrastructure and maintenance needs.
I think the other piece is when you're looking at amounts like this, that, and we're talking about it as rainy day, we're talking about the catastrophic thing. So we don't wanna touch it for a routine thing. So the gym floor is a known expense. It's on the capital plan.
Right.
You know, are we gonna do that as a warrant article to raise the taxes? Or are we gonna put a little bit aside until we have enough to pay for it, right? So that's the strategy that we really haven't figured out.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk later about some things that popped up recently at the high school, and they're the nature of a 24-year-old school. So there are just things that you don't think about, and all of a sudden it's like, holy smokes, that has to be addressed.
We also
And
have
by
a-
the way, that's the first of 18 of those, right? So it's just one of those awareness pieces, and again, we'll fill the board in later on.
But we also have the capital improvement expendable trust fund, right?
Right.
And when I look at and I had to refresh myself on the definition, right, to understand the difference between that and the rainy day fund, as we're calling it. Right, purpose of funding the study, planning, and cost of a new construction or renovation of existing facilities, or renovation, right? So if there's a gym floor, right?
Right.
That's renovation, right? And we have money in this account to tackle that if necessary.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think the long-term plan should be to work towards having enough money so that we're not having to go raise and appropriate large sums of money.
Absolutely.
So that the taxpayers are always on this roller coaster.
Right.
I think for the purposes of this year, though, and knowing that we're going to be coming to some warrant articles that have numbers affixed to them, I don't think any of these numbers get us anywhere close to where we should be. So I don't think that, I would hope that the feedback from taxpayers would not be, well, go do that analysis and then come back to us, because these numbers aren't gonna touch where we should
No,
be
agreed.
for anything.
Agreed. But again, for planning purposes, I would love to be able to go to budget committee or have our budget committee rep go and say, we've started doing this planning for X, Y, and Z.
Absolutely, I think that this
and-
is a critical thing for us to start doing.
So I think the general consensus is we need to let it ride and continue to build them up.
All right, great.
We'll also seek, because I'm recalling, Corey at one point having a recommendation around how much should be in there. There was a number that he found maybe from ASBO or something, so let us try to get
Yeah.
that because it's a great question.
Again, I'm just curious if there's gotta be some organization out there that says.
I think I'm more comfortable with us backing into our own number based off of a strategic plan for.
Obviously, I'd like to have it more tailored to our own district, but again, having an idea of a general recommendation of, again, because you look at these expenses and it looks, to me, that's a lot of money that we have in reserves, but the expense of the buildings and the expense of a fix, it's not like something going wrong at my house where you spend $1,000 or, whatever it is to fix it. It's quadruple or, exponentially higher. And so I don't know that I, let alone other people in town, have that grasp on how easily those funds could be spent down with one event. So, more information is good.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. So the next thing I have on there is a custodial agreement proposal. So we know a theme of this year, which kind of continues from last year, is personnel and not being able to fill our positions. And we know what that does is it causes stress on people and it causes stress on the building as well, especially if you're talking about the building and custodial positions where they're not only cleaning, but they're doing preventative maintenance. And if they have to, you can only do so much with the personnel that we have. So we have reached out to an agency. So how we found out about that agency was that during one of my monthly New Hampshire ASBO calls, I asked the other regional people if they've had to reach out for custodial help, and several of them said that they either currently use one or they have within the last several years. They gave the name of Citywide as somebody to reach out to. So we reached out to Citywide. They came in and they met with me. Myself and Joe Underwood, the custodial supervisor, identified the upstairs of Campbell High School as a place to start. So with that, we get back to Citywide with the length of the hallways, the amount of classrooms, the amount of bathrooms, square footage, fixtures in the bathrooms, things like that. And they put together a price. So it's not a per person price, it's a per job price. So this is the price of $258, which would be per day that they would come in and they would clean the upstairs of Campbell High School. They might come in with 4 people, and it might take them 3 hours, but they're looking at they sometimes they come with 4, sometimes they come in with 2, sometimes they come in with 6. They come up with something consistent. So it's either going to be like always 4 or always 2, but it depends on what other jobs that they're working on as well. So you can see
Will
that
it always be the same individuals?
it will
Or can it
always
rotate?
be.
I'm just thinking building security and access, how do you manage that?
So they would fingerprint 6, or let's say if they were going to say there's going to be 3 individuals coming in, they would fingerprint 5 or 6 that would be specific for Litchfield. So while we typically would have the same 3, if one of them were on vacation or out, we'd pull from the other ones that were already fingerprinted for Litchfield. So it would be consistent with a couple backup people if those people were out.
Okay.
So they would come somewhere between 3 and 10 o'clock. They would complete that job in 7 or less hours, and then they would move on at that point too. You can see the specific things as you scroll down as far as what they would be completing each day or once per week. We've reached out to the union because, again, this is LSSA work. They agree that they're comfortable with starting where we wanted to start, which was the upstairs of Campbell, and to kind of possibly sign a contract through the end of this school year, where it would be only for student days. So after a student day, they'd come in, they wouldn't be coming in on vacations. We wouldn't be signing a contract now for the summer we'd be seeing what this got us, we'd start at Campbell, and see if it is a benefit for the district, or whether it's, benefit or not benefit. Sometimes when you bring in people, it seems like other school districts have had success, so I think that's what we plan on having, but you just never know. So as we look that out for roughly, I think they priced it out for about 77 days, because again, they would have to get fingerprinted, so they wouldn't necessarily start right away. It's, if you take $258 by 77 days, it's about $20,000.
So I guess the big question is, we have the LSSA contract on the warrant this year.
Yep.
That proposal for this year is based off of us taking unfilled positions and funneling that money back, right?
Yeah.
I guess my question is, where is this money gonna come from? Particularly, does this then put us in a position where we can't hire if we get some applicants? Because the goal of the LSSA contract revision is to hopefully attract some more.
Yep, and so answer that in two parts. One of the reasons why we want to only sign it through the end of this year too is we want to give it a chance to hire our own people after that as well. I think hopefully we'll have people start to apply now with knowing that they can get retro, but people also won't apply until they know the money's gonna be coming in their pocket as well with the dollar. So if we kind of go through the rest of this year, maybe we'll have people apply, but we still would have positions at the other schools too that we could fill. And so we would have to kind of cap it this year. Let's say we got lucky and people started applying, which I don't think we'd fill all the positions. We would fill less because we would be under contract with these people through the end of the school year. So right now,
We'll be contracted for the full 77 days.
we will be if we sign it. So right now, we have about $245,000, which is just associated with custodial salaries and health insurance. Nothing more than, not FICA or anything more than that. So about $245,000 of open money from not being able to fill those positions.
Has any of that been earmarked for if this LSSA contract passes?
Yeah. So, as I kind of look at the where we're saving money in bigger fashion and where we're kind of committing money in bigger fashion, we're still up by over 300,000. And, that's not even considering all the other places where we're saving money. We're not going to go up to budget as well. So, as we look at 20,000, when I'm looking at the plus minus, I'm putting in there, it has to be approved by the town, but as of now, I'm still putting in there that 178,000, because I don't want to say if that got approved, then I'd put that in there after type of thing. So obviously, if it's not approved, well, then we'd have 178,000 more, but I don't want to double, or get going in the wrong direction anyway. So
that 245 does not include the 178.
The 178 is not only for custodians, it's for paras as well. So we're para monitors, we are under budget, again, just salaries by 480,000 this year. So, and then grounds by another 38,000. So it involves all of those positions that would be part of that LSSA new agreement of 170,000, I'm sorry.
Would this agreement, as far as I know, I don't think it would, but would this agreement free up anybody to be working and cleaning at some of the other schools, or?
So what
Right
we have
I think
now,
we have like one at each school, right, at night, or one or two?
our second person at
Why
the
not
high
focus on one
school,
entire building?
Well, I'm just trying to wonder if this will then allow us to have the opportunity to move someone over so that GMS has another.
I wish it could, but our second person at the high school now is our grounds person. So as soon as the snow melts and the students get out there playing sports, they'll be out there full-time.
So this
So
is
what
for
this
one
really does
position,
is
right?
allow us to kind of have multiple people at the high school.
Which has
And
more
hopefully in a
square
way
footage.
where now Joe would be able to spend more of his time at the middle school and elementary. Joe's been at the middle school now.
Yeah.
But we'd have, kind of our own person on the first floor, second floor, not to worry about. And it's, the grounds person is currently doing the second floor of the high school.
So what you're saying is you're proactively looking ahead to the fact that the spring is coming
Well, we're still looking, yeah, we've been looking to hire, but we haven't been.
No, but I mean,
yeah, but
this
we-
isn't, I appreciate that you're not waiting until late April to be looking at how we're gonna handle when the grounds person has to go outside.
Yeah,
The groundhog told us we have 5 weeks to get it figured out, so we gotta get going.
Groundhog's always right.
Groundhog always says that.
40% of the time, he's right.
Right. I'm kidding. You know I don't believe in groundhogs, but anyway.
Is there, so this could potentially be a good move in terms of trying this and seeing if this works for our district. Is it worth considering doing it at another school as well, and another try? I mean, this seems, I don't wanna say it seems like short money because it's $20,000, it's $20,000, right?
I think, if we were to expand it more, those would be future conversations with the union. I think what the union wants to see is if, with the raises, are people gonna start applying?
Okay.
So that's why I think, this allows us to put our toe in the water a little bit by kind of seeing how the help works out. Do we really
Yeah.
need to supervise them that much, or are they kind of self-sufficient? They come in, they do a good job, and then they leave. As well as to see, do we get some people applying?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve.
But before you,
I'll second the motion, but we can continue discussion. Go ahead.
just obviously, I mean, I don't know if this is I'm assuming there's gonna be a full contract for this, or maybe not, maybe this is what they're gonna give you.
No, there's a contract.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
just making sure, cause
Proposal
Okay.
and cover sheet.
Yeah, so
I just see like
yeah,
total
there's
month
some-
investment
The
is
fine
258,
print
which
is
doesn't.
Fine, fine print's
Oh, there's
right,
fine print, okay,
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the custodial agreement proposal, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstained? That passes 4-0.
All right, thank you for that. The last thing I have on the agenda is more for anyone who's watching or anyone who's looking at our agenda. It is not only access to where you'd find information on our website, but then it just kind of gives you each spreadsheet, which we've been using to kind of make decisions, or where decisions have been ended up to be shown as well. So it gives you links to, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different spreadsheets, which would help you be, informed as you come to deliberative, or help you be informed as you come to vote. I think that's the goal of any kind of group, school board, school together, is to make sure that the residents of Litchfield have the right information. So that's there. Again, people can always give me a call. They can email me as well. My role is for the school, but my role is also to kind of make sure that people who are voting, if they need or if they want more information, to kind of reach out to me so I can get them that information as well. So it's here with some brief descriptions of what you'd be looking at. Some of the things would be normal, which you'd see every year, which is the MS-27. But some of the things are things that we built specifically to kind of work our way through the budgeting process. For example, the changes or the decisions that were made by the school board and the budget committee. So how did the budget look when they first got there? What choices did they make? How did that impact the budget, both in a dollar and percent amount? And it kind of steps through that as well. So just want to make sure it was very clear to people in town where to look for some information in regards to the schools.
This is fantastic. This is nice step-by-step for people to be able to easily access information. I think we're more familiar with the different documents that, we should be more familiar with the different documents you produce, but making it more accessible and spelling out exactly how to find that information is great. Any questions from the board on that?
No, I am
And
cutting and pasting that into a Facebook post so that the steps on how to access that folder is out on our Facebook page.
Great, thanks.
I
And
guess
all of those are public docs, so people
Yep.
can access them anytime. Links should be open.
if anyone has, I suppose, any other suggestions for things that should be listed on here or, easily accessible, I think maybe let Doug know,
Yep.
if that's okay.
And just if I may, we're accustomed to this in Litchfield. This is unprecedented in schools. This level of access and this level of budget detail does not occur in most school districts. So when people make accusations of shady and covered up and, can't find the details, et cetera, I chuckle a little bit, because when I look at what's going on in other districts, this is like the most transparent, the most detail-oriented packet of information, to even have clickable links in every agenda. It doesn't happen in other districts, so there really is a high level of public access to government records in Litchfield, and I just want to say that out loud, because we take it for granted. It's not normal.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, we can move into public minutes. Did everyone have a chance to take a look at the January 17th and 24th minutes? January 30th aren't linked here, so I think we can hold those off for next time.
We'll have to hold those off.
They're done, but it was in my format, which was quickly a Word document while we were having the meeting, and so we need Jan to put them in her magical form.
Yeah, my understanding is that Jen had reviewed them, but the communication didn't get to Kayla to make the link, so they're ready, they just didn't
Right.
make it here, so we'll do it
Okay.
next time.
That's fine.
Do you want one motion or two?
And unless anyone has any changes, one motion is fine.
I'll make a motion to approve the January 17th and January 24th minutes.
I will second that. Are there any questions or changes?
No.
Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the January 17th and 24th minutes, please say aye.
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 Opposed, abstained, passes 400. So we will, table and have the January 30th minutes on the agenda for the 21st. For new business, we have some policies to review for a second read. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn this over there are 3 policies here, so does anyone have any questions on them?
No, I mean, it was the one,
Yeah.
Just if I may,
Two
so
revisions.
if you look at JICI, you'll notice that in green highlight, we inserted the phrase on or off duty. So weapons under control of law enforcement personnel, comma, on or off duty are permitted. So as long as it's a licensed law enforcement person, they'll be permitted. And I think that was the board intent. The other is you'll notice that we have struck out aerosol self-defense weapons as defined in RSA 159:20, basically pepper spray. And the feeling is that students who have that in their possession because of personal security things ought to be able to have that on school grounds. And obviously, if somebody used it in an offensive manner, not a defensive manner, but in an offensive manner, they would be appropriately charged for, say, assault or whatever the claim, whatever the charge would be. So we feel like we can take care of that and then still allow our students who are working late at a store and want to carry pepper spray with them to be able to do so. So I think that's what the board's intent was, but I wanted you to see that that is.
yeah, I mean, I would just clarify that the language here still could be interpreted to prohibit pepper spray. We've struck out the explicit reference to it, but I mean, if you look, weapon is defined as, including but not limited to those things, so, it's still fair game if someone wanted to interpret the policy that way, I think, but I think we're pretty clear as to what our goals are.
I think the difference for me is under the definition of weapon, it's making it clear that it's which is being used or attempted to be used. So again, the point being the intent is to harm someone with it versus the intent being to defend yourself with it. Or an accidental discharge, which I assume hopefully wouldn't happen, but,
And then GICI, which is the new employee carve-out, we left the law enforcement personnel on or off duty there, and we also cut out the aerosol spray component to that. So any of our staff members who, have pepper spray in their purse, pepper spray in their car, whatever the case is, will not be in an employment problem if it were to be discovered. And again, if it's not used in an offensive manner, it's not going to be an issue ever. And we did the same thing on KICI. So basically, all 3 now replicate the same language. So KICI is the public community component.
So I'll make a motion to approve policies JICI, GICI, and KICI for second read.
I will second that. Are there any other questions or comments on these policies? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the 3 listed policies that I don't feel the need to say the names right now, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? abstain, that passes 4-0-0. Perfect. And then policy community, we will be meeting, I assume at some point, do we have our next meeting scheduled?
It's on the calendar, I can't remember
Okay.
when it is, but
So we'll have some more policies to look at for the next meeting. Moving into old business.
Just on policy, sorry, I know
yeah.
the next really material action is to refresh and review all the policies.
Correct.
I have not had a chance to do that, so.
I'm
that-
kind
that's
of
the
assuming
material.
at this point that we're probably not gonna have a chance to do that until March, the full
Probably.
review. But I think there are other policies on the list that we already know of that weren't in that, required category, but were in the higher priority recommended,
Recommended.
that we can pick a few off of that until we get to do that full audit.
Okay.
That would be my thought, just to kind of keep it rolling. All right, old business. So next is a quick update on the superintendent search process. I'd like to take a moment to thank all of the community that came out last night, all of the staff that came out yesterday afternoon, the board, the SAU team, all of the different groups that met with the candidates. I'd also like to publicly thank the candidates for giving up an entire day to come to Litchfield and spend time in our schools and meet our kiddos and meet everybody. In terms of the process update, the board will be meeting tonight in non-public to what we hope is make a final decision. And we aren't able to update until after we go through some negotiations with the candidate, but we hope to be able to provide that update to the public by the meeting on the 21st would be the goal. Obviously, things can happen, things can change, but that's the plan going forward. Are there any questions on the super search?
No, I thought it was a good process, and we met two incredible candidates, and it's a tough decision.
Two incredible candidates, two very different candidates, but two incredible candidates in their own way, which is just, so.
That's where we want to be.
That's where you want, yeah, you want two high caliber candidates, and that's what we have. New elementary school, are there any updates, or has there been any facility meetings, or is there any conversation that needs to take place regarding how that's going? We had talked about potential video at some point.
Yep.
I just checking in on where we're
Yeah,
at.
I've been meeting with Matt, and Matt and I have been meeting with Dan Mitchell virtually and in person, and developing kind of storyboarding and outlining the information that we want to be able to share with the public about the project, about, you know, the process that we've been through, what we found, why this is the best option for our community moving forward, and the financing of it, and explain all of that. So we won't have it ready in time for deliberative, but hopefully soon after that, we'll be able to create those videos and get them out for circulation.
And all the information that we're pulling together is already in the public sphere.
Sure.
Right.
It's just, we're
Right.
trying to find, desperately trying to find ways to package it in a way that it's easy to understand the key points, because we recognize that there is so much information that people have combed over, and that we've presented over many, many months, so.
Awesome.
Exactly, so that's underway.
Perfect. I think we're gonna get into it a little bit more when we talk about the annual meeting and deliberative presentation, but I at least wanted to leave it on here, as we've had some links on the agenda with different updates and whatnot, so at least we've had that discussion, and like I said, we'll get into it more when we talk about
Well,
Article
and
1.
just to add, right, I mean, I know we're gonna talk about deliberative, but this is more of the actual annual meeting itself.
Right.
Right, in preparation of the voter guide, like
Sure.
how are we thinking about that, right? Are we going to include, a mailer out to the residents on the program or on the new elementary school, and kind of the reason why it's being asked for, and that type of thing? Is that gonna be part of the circulation and what we're doing here?
So I don't wanna speak for the board, because again, it's the will of the board. My thought process would be that, yes, that would absolutely be part of I'm trying to be mindful of, and correct me if I'm wrong if I don't need to be as mindful of this, but as board members, we obviously are in support of this project, 500, we've said that. But obviously there are a lot of people in town that are not supportive of this project, and so how do we balance what we present at our meetings? We present facts and we present data.
Yep.
There's a difference between advocating and promoting, and then there's a difference between,
Electioneering.
yeah, and I just want to make sure we're understanding the difference between that as we participate.
Right.
And again, maybe I'm being too literal with my reading of it.
I think the key thing is the board, first of all, there's a ton of information. I mean,
Sure.
we've been having facility improvement meetings
Yeah.
in the public sector for years.
Yeah.
So I think you just have to be mindful that you have to report the facts. So it is a fact that the school board is recommending this project by a vote of 5-0, right? So that's a fact.
Yep.
So getting facts out there is something that you're able to do. You know, it is a fact that there are materials available for people to look at and review. And so redirecting people to that is something the board is able to do. What you can't do is, you know, put out vote yes on number one. That would be seen as electioneering, because you're advocating for a vote. So I think you just have to continue to say, it's an important project, it's there. But then, on the flip side, a parent group that emerges, or some other outside group that isn't the school district, is able to advocate very strongly, however they wish. And so, that's the piece that we just have to walk that line.
And that is a perfect example of what would we want that mailer to say? Would we want that mailer to say vote yes on one, which it sounds like that's not something that we can do.
Right.
But we can send out
Vote.
vote,
And
here's the
information
day,
can be found
here's the
here.
articles.
Right. I mean, I think
Right.
the point that we're really trying to get across in all of our conversations has been we're not bringing this up just because we're looking for an opportunity to spend money or because we think it'd be
Right.
nice to have a nice new shiny building. We're looking at this from the perspective of we have a big problem that is on our hands and it's a ticking time bomb, and we really don't want to wait to address it until the bomb goes off. So, you know, this is about solving a very long-standing problem that we've really vetted what the best options are. And so I think that that's really what it is. It's not about like what would be nice.
And our purpose in putting it forward this year in particular is to take advantage of the state aid that's available to us, and
Right.
knowing that delaying the project will cost taxpayers more money.
Well, yeah, I mean, also, it would really, really not feel good to dump hundreds of thousands of dollars into GMS, because it's not going to get us anywhere near where we need to be. I mean, we know from the recent renovation analysis that we need to jump 37 million to GMS in order to get it even close to where we need it to be. So, I think in terms of the information, what Tina and I are working towards right now is we're immediately focused on the presentations for deliberative.
Yep.
I think from that we are also going to be working with the videographer to start to pull apart, like, I think we have like 4 or 5 different areas of information that we want to pull apart into smaller videos. And then I think from that we can probably work to derive any of the information for the voter guide.
I get it. We're a month out, right? And
I
that's
mean,
why I'm saying, like, we need to.
I'll be
start
frank with you.
this.
I was supposed to do some stuff for them. I haven't had time to do it. The reality is we are all spending many, many hours here when we all have jobs. So, so we'll do our best. And new babies. So we'll do our best.
Yeah, we have
I get it.
documents started. We have Dan Mitchell is working on the points that he'd like to hit during deliberative, and it's an ongoing process.
But I think the voter guide is a great question, because I think we asked it at the last meeting, and I'm not sure if we have an answer. If we're gonna collaborate with the town in terms of sending out a voter guide at the same time, or combined voter guide, is there a deadline for print? Is there a deadline for mailing? Is there a deadline for?
So let me give you an update on the voter guide. So if you remember, we used to always do it in-house. Michelle always produced and sent the voter guide, and then the town would compensate the district. Last year, we flipped that because we didn't have the personnel any longer in our office. and the town has taken that on. So Kayla's been in touch with Kim Kleiner. They're producing their side of it. We have started our side of it. While I was away, I'll thank Doug for taking first crack at editing and getting some language down. The deadline to get it to the town is, I want to say February 16th is sticking in my head.
Okay. Next Friday.
It's what?
9 more days.
Yeah, well, it's only 9 warrant articles, so we can do that. So we will get that language. And again, remember, that's neutral language. That is not
That's just
promotional language. It's
explaining.
just explaining the facts of what's there. Honestly, you can capture like past CBA language and reuse that CBA language because a CBA is a CBA. So, so we're in the process of getting that pulled together and we'll get it to the town. I don't recall, does the board review that or what?
We have reviewed it, and I think the only reason I would say that we would wanna have eyes on it, not only reason, but one of the major reasons is we've talked about including tables in the voter guide this
Yeah.
time.
Right.
And so I think it's important for the
Yeah,
board
we absolutely need
to
see
have
it.
eyes on it and make sure it accurate, you
It's
know,
very clear.
it's clear to us, so it's clear to other people.
Yep.
And it's just a ton of information, so I don't think it's a bad idea to have.
So,
Look at it.
not having a meeting before our deadline, as soon as we have it polished up, we're gonna share it
Yep.
with the full board
Yep.
and just ask for feedback. We'll give you a commenting,
Yeah, give us
Privilege or
commenting
whatever.
privileges and we can
Um,
comment on it.
make
For sure.
comments, and we'll get it done.
And sending out a postcard or a mailer just about the GMS project, reminding people to, well, attend deliberative, but it's a little late for that, but to come and vote. That is something that the FIC has discussed and we've discussed in-house, and we feel like that's a very important thing to do as well.
And Suzanne has sent drafts of what that could look like.
Yeah.
We just need direction. We need to know what the board would like to do and what information you wanna have in there.
It's hard to say, give direction if I haven't seen it.
Seen it. Yeah, I've seen it.
I mean, Suzanne
you
sent
seen
it
it?
2
I mean,
weeks ago.
that's
Yeah,
exactly what I
and
was
I gave-
asking, like, I would like to include like a flyer or a mailer as a part of the
I have
voter
seen it
guide.
and I have provided feedback on it, so,
Have we gotten a draft back?
no,
Okay.
not that I've seen.
All right, so
That's
our
the next
next
step.
meeting is
We need to see it.
2/21.
I do want to remind the board, so kind of a nicety this year is that there's an extra week after February vacation, right? So often we come back from February vacation on a Monday and we're voting on Tuesday. And so it really makes, like, we have to have stuff in people's mailboxes on Saturday so that when they return from Disney, not that anybody goes to Disney in February, but when they return, they have it there and they're ready, right? This year, there's an entire week that occurs. It's kind of, it's to our favor that occurs. So, I'm not saying we should dilly-dally because we got an extra week. I'm just pointing out that there's time to get stuff out in the mail, say the Monday of when people return back to school, and they'll have it that week, and it'll be a week in advance of the voting. So time is not quite as much a pressure point.
All right, jumping in, just, there's one thing in between the elementary school and the annual meeting conversation, which is LMS Solar. Is there an update on that?
Yep, to give you an update, so we filed the permits with the town, as you know, right around Christmas time, I think it was right before the holiday. We got an email back from the building inspector, and he had several questions, good questions, they were all relative to roof loads, and wanted to make sure that the structural analysis that was done, was answering his questions and concerns to make sure that the roof can hold up, not only the solar array, but obviously snow loads, et cetera. So, and there are two structural engineers that are involved. There's the engineer who designs the rack, who says this is what the rack can support. This is the way the rack is engineered. This is the way the rack is ballasted to the roof. And then that produces a load of this many pounds per square foot. You then have to take what the structural engineer said about the roof and make sure that it's gonna work. So at this point in time, Kay has answered, I think Jeff had 4 questions. She's answered 3 of those, and we're waiting for one final review from the structural engineer on the roof to answer the question that Jeff had. So just so everybody knows, that's where it sits. We believe those are the only 4 questions, and we believe that that will satisfy the questions from the building side. But then I reread the email, and it looked like there might have been a fire department component that hasn't been asked yet. So I need to get some clarity as to whether that's the total set of questions, or is there still something to come from the fire department? So we'll try to get all that clarified. But, I mean, basically, the firm is ready to go. They have all the materials, they're ready to get the array up and get it turned on, but we need the permit from the town to make that happen. So we're working on making that occur as soon as possible.
I mean, I've shared my frustration. I think the whole board shared our frustration with this process, and you know, I'm hearing permitting delays, and I can't help but think, could this have been avoided, right? If we started the permitting process earlier, right? So, I mean, it is what it is at this point, but it is extremely frustrating to not see any return on this project or on this investment quite yet.
Yeah, just one reminder is that Kay has committed to the PPA components. So the PPA is what we're paying for energy this year. So whether we have the array or not, we're paying as if we have the array. So at least from the return component,
We're not out any money.
we're protected on that. I still want to look up there and see a solar array,
Right.
and I want to say the energy in the building is coming from the sun. But we can't say that at this point. But we
Well-
can say the savings are there for the taxpayer.
Part of it is that we also want to prove the model, right? As we think
Exactly.
about
Right,
future.
absolutely.
Exactly. And I can assure you, both Doug and I, every single time we have conversations about the delays with LMS, we're like, this is not helping with the conversation about a new elementary school. Because what we wanted to be able to say is, the model proved exactly as we thought it was going to, and it makes financial sense down the road. And we can't say that yet. You're spot on right.
But just as a reminder, we've taken that under advisement with the facilities, and we have been very explicitly clear that, I mean, obviously designing a new school, right, we don't have to source the electricity for very far down the road, so hopefully we will know whether that is actually viable, or if it's not, then, but we know that we have other options. So there, we are not in any way, shape, or form locked into
Anything at this
solar for the new project.
Yep.
Anything else on LMS Solar? Okay, moving into the annual meeting conversation. We have a draft of a deliberative presentation. One of the key things we need to decide tonight is who is going to be speaking to or presenting which articles, and so certainly happy to engage in the conversation if people feel differently. I have a thought, and I've been thinking about strategy on who, where it should go. But again, I'm not married to it, so we can have that conversation here. Obviously, first article is Article 1, the elementary school.
Heidi, just if I may.
Yeah, of course.
So this, what I'd like to do is to type the name of who's doing each one into that field at the bottom. So
Sure.
this will just be the splash screen that is there. When we call it to order and get ready to go, who will do the introduction of board members and district reps? So Heidi's name goes here. Sorry, I didn't want to skip this and then have a Saturday looking at
Yep.
each other. And then budget committee members, will JD do this?
Yeah, you can do that.
Why does it say 120? Did you type that? Update?
I just wanted to, yeah. You can get rid of that.
Got it. Perfect, and thank you for that.
If we want to, I will say one of the things that the town did that I noticed when I was there for their deliberative on Saturday is they had in the bottom right-hand corner who was presenting the article, like literally written on the slide.
On the slide.
Yeah, and it was kind of nice for the people in town, as you're sitting in the audience
Yeah.
looking at it, to say, okay, I know who's coming up from the select board to speak on this, or I know who's coming up from,
Yeah.
you
you don't
know.
have to
So
introduce yourself every time.
adding it in there is gonna, we'll have to create a new text field so we can have Kayla work on that. Let me just capture it in that note field for now.
Definitely. I'm just saying it was nice to be, it was for an audience perspective, it was nice to know. It wasn't huge writing, it was just bottom corner italics, but it was just nice. Okay,
Yeah.
Kim's gonna come up and speak on this one. Okay, Bob's got this one.
Perfect.
Last year, just logistics wise, last year, I believe we projected the slides up onto the scrim at the back of the stage. We're not going to be able to do that this year because there is a set on the stage now. So we can lower the screen and have it projected on the screen.
If we lower the screen, then we can't, people will be sitting behind the screen, so then we have to go back to sitting
I
in the
know.
pit, which we can do. I was told that everything on the stage could be removed. Is that not the case?
Not easily.
Not right now. Yeah, not easily.
Okay. As you know, the town moved to the gym, but I'm assuming the board wants to stay in the
I'd
auditorium.
like to stay in the auditorium, yeah.
There was a question about that online that I answered.
What's that?
Auditorium.
Is wrestling tournament in the gym at the same
Right,
time?
there's, and the cafeteria is booked with
Okay.
the mattress sale, so.
So
busy
we're
day.
in the gym, I'm sorry, we're in the auditorium.
Yep.
So is the board comfortable to what we did 2 years ago? The screen is down,
Where we're off to the side sideways, or we were on the
we're,
floor? I don't think we were on the floor.
I think we set up in the pit and we had the budget committee.
I think we can look.
Yeah,
We can go back to the
figure it
video
out.
and look and we'll.
Yep.
I think we had the
Follow whatever we
budget
did.
committee sitting off in the front section
Mm-hmm.
with, so I think it was the budget committee chair and vice chair, the board chair and vice chair.
And then
at
members
the
coming
front,
up from the front.
District officials, so we'll figure it out.
Yeah,
But
okay.
we're gonna have to operate out of the pit, just to be clear, and we'll put the podium down there. And we need 2 podiums, one for the moderator and one for
Yeah.
the presenters. Okay, perfect, we'll get it done. Who reads Article 1? Is that the moderator who
So
reads
that
it?
was the next conversation. Who reads it? I believe
The moderator.
the
reads
moderator
the-
reads the actual slide.
And Steve Perry will be the moderator at the meeting, so he will
Okay.
be there.
So my thought was, because the board is unanimously in support of this warrant article, I think it would be important for all of us to speak to one aspect of it. My thought was, we can talk about where we are, what we've done, why this is the best choice, a brief overview of that, go through some of the pictures, some of the renderings, and then, talk about the finances and the funding of it.
So the way these slides are laid out actually makes a lot of sense to me.
So just before we get to the presentation part, I typed this in to just say, we grabbed images that we got from Suzanne and Calvin and just inserted them. So,
Yeah.
these are here. Any
move
board
them.
member can grab one, move it, however you want to utilize it. We just put them all up front so that you saw what was available. And just to orient the board, it's the overall site plan review of where the new school sits in relation to the current school, followed by the first floor view of what the new school looks like, and then the second floor view of the new school. This is an aerial shot. I love this picture, by the way. That really feels pretty good. But you kind of have to have the first one to understand where this lies.
Yep,
Do we have a bird's eye view of the existing building?
we do somewhere.
We had the drone footage of the traffic, so yes.
I'd love to have a picture, a
Okay.
bird's eye picture of the current building and show this is the 1930s, this is the,
We
Yeah,
do
we
have
have that.
drawings of those. We've seen those before.
Yep. And then bird's eye, I didn't think that's what this is, right? And then this is the approach to the school that we had selected. And this is a different view of the new school, different rendering. And then this is the closest it gets to what the school will look like from the parking lot. The bus loop, I think that is. So use those however you wish.
Okay.
All right, then we come to general overview, and I put Heidi's name on it because,
I'll start us off. Yep.
so I won't retype your name down below, because we know it's yours.
And then I'll touch on the facility, the current needs.
And remember, you're not limited to one slide, so if you need multiple slides to do this,
So,
you
yeah.
can create multiple slides, and you know how to do that in the deck. It's pretty straightforward, but it's the current facility needs.
Okay.
Dan is then going to do educational impact. I thought it was most important that the principal be
Yeah.
the one to say, this
we
is,
told them that as well.
Yeah.
this is how it impacts us.
Yeah, he's prepared to speak about operationally and educationally, how we're limited in what we can do at the current building.
Why a new building is the right choice, so we have that labeled for Peter. I didn't know Peter was absent tonight, so
We
has
didn't
anybody
either.
talked to Peter?
I thought
I
he-
sent
We
him
saw
a
him yesterday.
message. Let me
On
see if
Zoom.
he responded.
I thought he was in Aruba until today. So
I know
thought
they
he
were
was-
flying back today. I
Yeah,
just
they
don't
were
know what
flying back.
time.
There you
He
go.
has not responded, so he might be.
I'm
on
wondering
flight.
if their flight got delayed, that's all.
Yeah.
If, so we'll have to reach out to Peter.
Yeah,
so
we
that
haven't talked to Peter about.
he knows this is the ask, and then.
If he's not comfortable with it, I could take that section too if I need to.
Yeah, I think symbolically, we talked with Kyle and with Keith, symbolically, all 5 board members having a bite at the apple.
I think
is
we should,
huge.
yeah, absolutely.
And so if.
I'm just
Pete-
saying, if for some reason he wasn't ready,
And I thought too, Peter would be well suited for that topic, because, I mean, when he was elected to the board, he wanted us to make sure we had looked at every option and
Consolidation.
and
yeah.
renovation, and he asked those tough questions.
I agree. I'm also wondering if we tap into the facilities committee and ask Ron.
Absolutely. I think having Ron there as a commenter is
Yeah.
extremely beneficial, and, I'll send him a message, certainly. I think he already plans to be there.
Okay.
But I'll certainly send him a message, but I think this is a good call for Peter too, as a board member.
Yep. Agree. Okay.
Then next, we have the financial case. Andrew's seen as the financial guy, so we
I mean,
got,
you see, all the details are on the next slides, right? So.
and then
Basically
Doug,
what you said at the bond hearing.
you're the only one we teed up, Andrew. We,
Yeah.
Doug presented and pulled together the tables charts.
This is all
the
from the
stuff.
budget hearing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
it's
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
You have full editing privilege. I mean, this is just, we dumped in there everything that we had at our fingertips. But you can reorder it, make it your own, give it your own voice, whatever you need to do.
I will not take any offense. If you delete, reorder, it doesn't matter to me, so.
Right.
It would be, just looking at some of these projections, which go out a good ways, which I appreciate. I think you projected the tax impact out. It would be worth noting, though, around year 10, that we would have the opportunity, if rates were attractive enough, to refinance at that point. Because there are certain things that we can't, we get accused of,
Hiding.
not building things in properly, and, that's something that we obviously, there are things that we can't, this year, for example, with our budget, right? The money that we're returning, we are getting just blasted over and over and over again for something that we're required to show. But that also goes the other way for us too sometimes, right? We can't quantify that there might be savings down the road, so you just
Right.
don't show that, and that's the way it is.
Yeah, so a reminder with that, if we go with the bond bank, they have the right to kind of resell the bonds. We can't initiate that
Right.
because we're grouped together, but they've always resold when it made sense too. So it's not, they're not reluctant to do that. Their goal is to save taxpayers' money as well. So, this does go out several years for the estimated tax impact. It does also skip years as well too. So because if we did
There'll be a long chart.
long charts on that one, so. yeah.
How do you make it clear to the public that we did that on purpose? I mean, do you put ellipses after?
Well, I think Andrew just said
29?
it.
Yeah.
I talk through it.
Well, so what do you want in the voter guide? Do you want the abbreviated version, or do you want it to be full?
I think I was gonna do the full one in the voter guide, abbreviated one on this, just because it's just too many numbers if you do all of it down type of thing, so. I kinda skipped, I did the beginning, and then I kinda skipped maybe when like one of the loans came off in a way, or when it was less than 2 million, type of thing, so.
And I think your voter guide is really slide 23 and 24.
Yeah.
I do think 24, we should probably put
The other years?
400,000 on there as well.
Yeah, I mean, so,
I mean, you just double
double
200,000.
200,000.
And it's there. You know what I mean? That's how I look at it.
I can do that math with you. But I can, we've anchored on these numbers based off of the information that we pulled from the town.
We should
Peter
start
did bring up
assessed
a
at
point,
300
though.
and then go up from there.
Peter
Is there
did
anything
bring,
assessed at 200,000 in town?
yes, there is.
It was assessed
there is?
at 250, there's probably.
Yeah, but Peter did bring up a good point though. Is he looked, so the numbers that I got from the town, again, I called them and they were like, yeah, I think we could generate that, and they like pulled something together. I don't know how they got it, right?
Yeah.
But I relied on that. Peter then said, I didn't see anything that was between, I think it was like 4 and 450. And Peter's like, my house is actually at like, or 480, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So, needless to say, I think having one more at 4 or 450 would make sense. I think that we don't have anyone that's assessed, like, I don't think over 600, but the majority of people will fall in this range that we have here right now.
Okay.
I just don't want to get accused of, like, putting,
You're only putting
All
partial
right, so
numbers.
Doug, can I ask you just to add a column to this?
Do you want me to add a column or move everything over and get rid of 200,000?
get rid of
Get
200.
rid of 2 and then add.
Yeah.
And then add a 400,
Yeah.
yeah. I will do that.
Thank you.
All right?
Yeah.
So then we have Matt doing This Is the Year. So this is, telling the story about Concord's
Yep.
going to take the next bite of building aid. I mean, that's just gonna happen.
Yep. If I may, and again, Matt's totally up to you, this is your slide, but I think, aligning with some of the language that Andrew used during the budget committee, I think you, wasn't This Is the Year, I think it was The Time
Time
Is
Is
Now.
Now.
Something along those lines, just to kind of have that
Yep.
reiteration of what was
Need
already
to do better and the time is now.
dingo, whatever, but reiterating that, because I think that's kind of
I
makes
should
it
put
a
quotations
catchphrase.
around it.
And then
Trademark
Yes.
Andrew.
Andrew Cutter, copyright Andrew Cutter underneath.
Make it a T-shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, I think that's exactly where that information goes. Then we move into,
So we met with Kyle and Keith on Monday and verified that they both are gonna be there. So Matt, I thought, both you and Tina know them from meetings.
Yep.
However, you're going last, so it's like if you just point out when you're at the podium, Kyle is here, Keith is here. I think Steve should have already done the, motion to allow outside experts to speak or whatever the
Yeah.
motion is.
Usually that's at the very
the
beginning.
very beginning.
And I think they should be able to stand up at that point and be recognized so that, the public knows if there's something technical, toss it to them. Do not be shy about tossing it. I mean, last year Kyle, was it last year? Yeah, I think when we were in the auditorium, Kyle got up and spoke to
Yeah.
some of the questions that were being asked by people, so, and
How
Keith,
far are are they going to be willing to let us go in that, right? Like, does this devolve into a, public facilities forum?
This goes as long as it takes to answer the questions.
Okay.
I mean, it's that simple.
Yep.
Okay, good.
Agreed.
I mean, this is our chance to hear very direct and candid community feedback. We need to be responsive to that.
Yep. All right, good.
Just let it play out.
and if it's technical and if it's, relative to the construction or architectural trades, we shouldn't be answering that.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
They should be
Right.
the ones answering.
Well, and Kyle, I mean, another key point of having Kyle on our team is not only does he understand building aid and building schools in New Hampshire, he's helping to create the rules as we
Right.
move forward in time. So
Right.
that is that's a huge win, and for us, for our town, and for our district. So
I think the other thing is a reminder that they are the team building the addition at Trinity. So, because we said, where is there an example of like recent example, and they can point down the road or up the road, whichever way you wanna look at it, and say, this is what we're doing. How can it only cost this much to demolish a building? And they say, cause to build that addition, we demolished another building, and here's what it costs.
Yep.
Right, so they have the ability to anchor the public around, we're doing it right now.
Yep.
We know what we're talking about, so
Yep.
use them. We went surfing, we found out there's a whole different Kyle Barker architect in Boston who doesn't look anything like Kyle. And I'm like, what on earth, how are we getting this guy?
Wow.
And it was so bizarre. Anyway, we did finally find a picture. We found two pictures of Kyle. One was about 20 years old, and then we found this one.
oh, that's a
So,
good one.
anyway,
Is that how you spell bonnet? A bonnet page in stone?
I will double check the spelling.
It looks weird to me.
Okay, I'll double check the spelling.
Sixth grade spelling team. So
It's 2 ends, right?
B-O-N-N,
State champs.
2 N's?
2
Two
ends.
ends.
I
Two
think it's
Ts.
2 N's and 2 T's, no E.
Wow.
Well done, Tina.
Thank you.
Two ends.
Wait a minute.
It does have an E.
It
Two
does?
N's,
Yeah.
2
Bonnet?
T's and an E.
Yeah, you just
Yeah,
need
the only
to
thing I
add
was
an N.
missing was an N. So,
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
okay.
Thank you.
And that's why you didn't go.
I would
beyond
pronounce it
sixth grade.
Benetti, but
What's
that's
that?
just
And that's why
me.
you didn't go beyond sixth grade. with
That's
spelling
right.
too.
Well, they didn't offer one in junior high.
I would pronounce it Benetti.
Bonnet.
All right,
Bonnet to me.
anything else?
On it, right?
So that's Article 1. The only, I just don't know if we want a closer. I mean, is Matt the closer? Is that the, but
Yeah.
then introducing Kyle and, or
And
do-
saying what questions you have, right?
I think Dan's the closer.
Nah,
I was gonna
Dan
say
is-
Dan or Ron. I do. You said that, and I'm just like, with Ron being the not skeptical, but the most vocal. He had a lot of questions. He didn't come in, agreeing to this, and he has stated, multiple times now and in writing that he's on board. I wonder if that will resonate with the town. I don't know.
So I think one thing that Tina and I talked about with that was
Yeah.
that I don't know if it makes sense to pigeonhole him to one topic.
Yeah.
Because Ron seems to be really good at pulling it all together from an
Yeah.
from an outside perspective, outside
Yeah.
of the board perspective. And so I think I mean I'm more than willing to have him come up. I think he's done a great
No,
job
but
of
maybe
this.
he speaks to
But
it
maybe
then
he'd
as
be
a
willing to
comment.
make
Right.
a comment
Yeah.
on it.
Right.
That's
Because then
fine.
he can kind of run the gamut of like what he feels like we either missed or what he felt
Right.
was important to like reiterate.
I think you also want to compartmentalize, this is the presentation of the warrant article, which
Yeah.
is the board's responsibility.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
I agree.
the
That makes
public
sense.
should comment, and Ron will comment, he will get up and he will say,
He was there at the time.
I started off
Yeah.
not thinking this was the right thing, and the more I dug into it, here's where my journey with this went, right? He'll do that, so.
Yep.
I don't think we want to force it earlier. All right, anything else on this? You all have editing, so, probably, gentle reminder, try to keep the fonts somewhat similar, so it's got a similar feel, but if you really have your favorite font somewhere, I guess,
No, it's
I
okay.
won't undo it on you, all right. Next, we got Article 2, the operating budget. So Steve will read the article, right?
You will read the article, and then I think JD.
JD has had editing to this.
Yep.
And I think he's already been in it, but let's take a look.
I think he's been at, we asked him what slides he wanted to present, because he definitely presents slides from this article, and then we would kind of fill in the rest. So I think he's been looking at it, but I don't know if he's answered at this point yet which slides, has he?
Let's see if we can get any sense of it. So this overview one, which is sort of the board reductions, who wants to present that?
Well, so here was my thought was, I thought we could assign warrant articles to each of us. Besides us all speaking on Article 1, we could each take a warrant article after. I'm happy to take Article 2. My thought was Andrew would be good for
I'm happy
Article
to
2.
take Article 2 as well.
But I'm happy to do it. I'm not shoving it on you, but I think you and JD tag teaming, having been through the budget committee meetings. Last year we had, and I just wanna make sure it's here, is there a major drivers slide?
Yes, there's a major driver slide.
32.
There it is, okay. There it is.
All right, so this overview slide, I put Andrew's name on.
Yep.
This one, I'm gonna put Andrew's name on.
Budget committee one, or you gonna put JD on that one?
General fund, oh, because this is the budget committee one, so this is, I'm sorry, that is JD.
Slide 29.
And who's
No,
on track?
that's us.
I got JD on
General fund is
30,
JD.
right?
Okay, yeah.
And so you're doing 29, Andrew, JD does 30. We have a blank one that's now
I just
deleted.
deleted it,
All right,
yeah.
so now major drivers from the general fund, I guess, goes back to Andrew?
Yeah, so last year we were a little more specific than this. I think we had a chart that actually showed like the dollar amounts.
Yeah,
So,
so special education plus this.
Yeah.
Special education
Yeah,
transportation plus
I
that.
just think it conceptually and visually
Show the
helps
dollars.
people to see. When you see an increase in special education transportation, we know how much that contract is going up, but having it spelled out there and making it incredibly clear. We have zero control over this.
Right.
We are, for special ed transportation, we have zero control over our regular ed transportation. Like, this is the cost. And this
Yep.
is, we negotiated this and this was the best.
Andrew, do you want to do those numbers from your sheets, or do you want Doug to insert numbers in?
Why don't Doug, just so that they match to the T all of our audited, or all of our forms that we just submitted with the state. That would be good.
Okay, so now it's Andrew with Doug to update the numbers.
Yep.
And the next one is operating in default. That's Andrew, I assume?
Yep.
Calling sick.
Number 30.
I'll we'll drag you in.
Gotta call in sick.
Nice try.
So we need an understudy here. Who's the understudy? So then,
Did you touch your nose?
No, I raised my hand.
I did.
Volunteer,
I raised my hand as the understudy. I did not touch my nose.
Oh, I did. Not it.
Okay.
so slide 33. So what we're trying to say with 33 is these are the ones that we talked about during the budgeting process, but they didn't make the cut, right? So
I don't think it, why do we need to talk about this?
We put it up there as a maybe. So that was our thought, like, do we
It's
put
not
it
in
up
the
there
budget.
because we have these, I mean, some people might consider these wants, other people might consider these needs type of thing, but we
But
know
it's
with
not
the
part of the
new.
budget.
Yeah, but I think
But
the
it
reason it's
was
not part of
part
the
of the
budget is
budget.
because of the teacher contract, LSSA contract, as well as the elementary school, so you can't have everything.
I get that, right? I guess my view is, it's not part of the budget, it's not part of a warrant article, why are we talking about it?
I think we should. I think that we need to be clear with people that there's a lot of stuff that we're not hitting the mark on still. Like, I know that this seems like a lot of money and it's painful and it hurts. We're still so far off the
Yeah.
mark on a lot of really high
I get it.
priority needs.
I'm sensitive to socializing even more of our needs on top of everything else on Saturday. Like this is highlighting more needs that we're gonna come back at some point and likely ask for,
I guess that's a good point.
right? And we're already asking for a ton.
So the reason we have it in here is for exactly this conversation, to figure it out. And the principals, so remember that they twisted my arm up behind my head somewhere and said, we need to be heard on these things.
Yep.
Instructional coach, which I was saying, guys, given the overall scope of this, I don't know how we even put that on the table. Because I was sensitive to the overall thing. And they're like, because we need an instructional coach. That's why we need to put it on the table. So the question is this the right time to remind people of it or not? And it's the will of the board how you want to proceed. But we teed it up for this conversation.
I hear you. I
The
think
objective of the meeting is to socialize what we are going forward and asking for, not still what we want, in addition to what we're asking for.
I think
I-
there's a very good chance, though, there will be a motion from the floor to add one or both of
Well,
those
that-
positions.
And
back
that's
in.
fine.
right.
Go for it.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think your explanation's a good explanation.
Makes sense.
I think you stand the chance at really overwhelming people with, it's already
How,
overwhelming. as
how
it
can
is.
you ask for more money on top of everything else that you're already hearing?
Right,
I don't know, I think it's a lot.
I agree.
Okay, thumbs up, thumbs down. Do we keep this slide?
No, I'd take it out.
Yeah,
That's
cut it.
2 downs, 3 downs. Down, gone. You
Alright.
get the
I see
privilege.
both sides,
Delete.
so.
That was very Roman. All right, so now we have that, just a reminder to everybody that we've reduced that math teacher at the high school. So we've gone from 5 teachers at the high school in math to 4. And we are also realigning a CHS case manager to GMS. So that's a realignment. Is this necessary to keep in here?
Well, I'm just
That's what I'm wondering.
I'm going back to the other earlier slides, like slide 29, and looking at what's there. Right, and is this really a message that we cover on?
Yeah,
No, it's not in there.
It's not in there.
could be.
It was taken out before
Not before the
board.
budget was presented.
It was taken out by, it was not part of the superintendent's budget, so we took out the math position.
So I think in this, instead of having a separate slide, I think in the blue space on slide 29 to the right, maybe we add another text box and just highlight that in addition to this, we've also made
Staff
changes,
reductions.
staff reductions and changes in positions. Because it's part of the overall reduction.
Yeah, and I think you're right, there is enough blue space to accommodate that, so, yep, we can do that. Not in that size font, but we'll do it. All right, and then I think it's questions at that point, right?
Are you seeing any other slides that you guys want us to create for that, or?
I think this is
again, aligned very much to the budget hearing, where it was very fact-based. We'll take the same approach here, right? These are the numbers. We'll talk about the value proposition and the savings on interest over conventional funding from a one bond approach. And, we'll certainly hit on all of the changes that were made throughout the board's deliberations as well as the budget committees. So I think it's good.
You have full editing, so if you think of something later,
I'll go through it again, for sure.
I just wanna, the only thing I was thinking, I might go through what we did in 2023 and 2022, just to make sure, I'm assuming you guys did that too, when you went back through these slides?
we made a copy of
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
so-
a
from
template,
there,
yeah.
so yes.
Yeah, so last year there was a couple exercise because the default
There was a
budget
big
was a
difference
big
between the
difference. And
default
so
and
it was like,
operating.
how many positions we've already reduced
Right.
over a 2-year span.
Yeah.
And so if we have to go the default budget, we're pretty much doing that again, type of thing. So we did cut out a couple slides because it didn't go with where we were at this
Yeah,
time.
this looks great.
All right, Article 3 is the,
Yeah, no, you're done now. So Article 3 is mine. I will take Article 3.
Article 3 is gonna be Heidi. Heidi, okay. So, I'm sorry, actually, the warrant article, sorry, let me put Steve's name in.
Yeah, now I'm doing 36.
And then, tell us what you want for, like, we haven't really provided you with anything.
Yeah, I would go back to the last time we had a contract, so 2 years ago, when we presented that contract, to see what slides. I think it would, obviously, the percentage increase and,
Do you want us to build that? Did you, just direction on it?
if you can do it, that'd be great, but I'm happy to do it as well.
Yep, we'll build it.
Again, I'm pretty sure we've done this probably, every 2 or 3 years, probably every 3 years for the last few years, so I'm not sure we need to
Reinvent the wheel.
do much different. I think, maybe some type of slide, either, I've seen some chatter online about our teachers are overpaid compared to 3 other districts, neighboring districts, which I don't think is
Did
true.
they actually use data in
No, of
making
course
such an
not.
absurd
No,
statement? Because that's not accurate.
I know,
No.
but, some of the data that we used to arrive at our figures may or may not be helpful in terms of inflation, what other districts are doing,
Right.
things that helped influence why we landed where we landed, and so,
Yep.
I'm happy to work on that as well.
I made a note, Mike, to build, we'll start it.
Yeah.
I'll work with Holly, and then personalize it, make it
Right.
yours, give it your voice.
Right.
All right, okay on Article 3 then?
Yep.
Then we come to Article 4.
I'll do that one as well, since it's mine as well, like a redo of,
Is that the right heading, meeting for Article 3?
I don't know.
no.
It feels wrong.
Special meeting, isn't it?
We want to use that phrase?
Is it like contingency? Article 3 contingency?
Contingency meeting, I like that.
I don't know that we need any other slides for it, just the one,
Just the article.
right.
And Steve will read it.
Speak to why it's necessary and, but I don't know that I need a slide about that. Just speak to the opportunity it provides the town if, for whatever reason, Article 3 doesn't pass.
So on this one, we'll just pause. It'll be Steve and Heidi, and just leave that language up there.
Yep.
All right, anything else on that one?
Nope.
Halfway. Article 5, support staff association contract.
I'll take it.
That's Matt.
Yeah. And again, I think the language for Article 5, or the slides we use for Article 3 and Article 5 are somewhat similar in terms of showing the
I
increase
would-
and whatnot, but I think there
I
needs to be
would
more
like
of a
to-
background.
Yeah, I would like to have the vacancies, the
Yes.
number of
Yeah.
vacancies,
Yep.
because that was the major driver.
I think, yeah,
You
the
should just-
background piece as to why we even entered
Right,
negotiation in the first
right,
place.
the
I
impact
think
on
that-
learning that's happening.
So I'll build it out, get those numbers pulled, and then anything you want to do to give it your own voice, feel free. We can
Just
add
paint a
slides,
picture
whatever.
of what's happening daily in our buildings as a result of not being able to hire people.
happening.
What?
I'm just kidding.
It's like,
I'm kidding.
Article 6 is then the contingent meeting, so I'm assuming Steve will read and Matt
that'll
will.
just stay up there to, yeah, same thing.
Actually, do we need to give an explanation after 4? Is it?
I think he just says, just like with 4, this is
Yeah.
the same concept,
Yeah.
and we'll take any questions.
Okay. Good on that one?
Yep.
Now we come to Article 7, the Employee Benefits Reserve Funds.
So this is where I was gonna ask Peter, he's not here, if he would prefer to do, I think 8 and 9 go together, the reserve funds for, capital improvement and then the rainy day, the maintenance, I think someone does 2 of those and then someone does Article 7. I'm happy to do whatever one that he
Yeah.
didn't want to do.
I can too. I only have a piece of Article 1.
Oh,
so
perfect.
far,
Then it's
so I can
yours.
do it.
Okay.
Yeah,
So give this one to Tina?
Yeah.
yeah. Should I, which one? 7?
Yeah, either Article 7 you do or Article 8 and 9. I think 8 and 9 go together because they're
Okay.
the same thing. So I would just, we'll ask.
So are we giving
Peter.
Peter anything?
No, Peter will get one of those.
Yeah.
And I just think we let Peter have the preference between,
If I had to guess, I think he would prefer 7.
you think then,
Yeah.
That's fine.
then you'll do 8 and 9.
Yep.
So 7 is gonna go
Hopefully
to,
I'm not, hopefully I'm correct.
Yeah.
Sorry, Peter.
If he wants to switch it, I think
That's
we can
fine.
have that conversation, but my thought was 8 and 9 are, you know, similar to the way that 3 and 4 go together. 8 and 9, although different reserve funds, you know, similar idea, similar percentage, similar reasoning behind, you know.
so Steve will read 8, and we don't have a slide after that, so do you want something, Tina? I mean, we could,
I do think we need to at least take a stab at explaining the difference between the two, because there's been a lot of questions about it.
Then sure.
And I think that we do kind of know what the difference is, you know.
Yeah.
ma-
The building
maintenance
maintenance
versus-
fund is our rainy day
Again,
catastrophic.
do we need a slide, I guess is my question, or is that something,
I can
I'm
just
thinking back to
talk
the
about.
town's presentation, when they did theirs, they didn't necessarily have a ton of slides.
I guess
can.
it's whoever's presenting it, just as long as you
Whatever
remember,
your
as long as
comfort
you
level.
remember to hit the point of like, I think it's worth
Peter.
proactively explaining, because
Yeah,
someone's
I
gonna
agree.
stand up and it's gonna take more time for them to stand up and ask the question when we can just tell them the answer.
So he's not
Yeah.
coming then. Peter just landed in New York,
Oh,
so he won't be here, I guess.
I don't think it's coming.
he's where?
In New York.
Alright, so I doubled it. I think the other thing is we'll put the current balance in there,
Yeah.
because tonight's discussion about,
How much should we
it
have?
looks like 250,000 is a lot of money, but let's talk about the cost of a boiler, let's, you
Yeah.
know, so I think
I do think that that's.
we'll
yeah.
provide you some of that.
Yeah, that will be helpful, thank you.
All right, and then 9, I'm gonna suggest that after 9, you explain why 9 is different from 8. And then we'll provide the same information for you
Okay.
on it.
That would be great, thank you.
All right, and that brings us to the end. Did we miss anything?
Who is presenting the slides? So back, just jumping back up to like slide 7 and the pictures of the building and who's,
They put those in there just so we could pull them into,
Yeah, whoever's talking about the building and the proposal.
but in terms of flow, are we just skipping over these or is somebody actually talking through these?
You can grab those and insert them wherever you want in the presentation. So, you know, it's up,
Right, so
I
if
think there's
Dan is
5
talking
photos. You
about-
could put one into each section.
Right, so-
To say, here we're showing you this view, and then you talk about. you're
So like if
talking
I'm
through the-
talking about the proximity to 3A and the cars lining up on 3A for drop off and pickup and
So
and
we
all
just
of
need to
that.
reorder these slides and put them,
Yeah, then I can show the overview.
You could also, you could duplicate it, so,
Mm-hmm.
like if, the picture that shows how far back the new school is
Right.
relative to the new one, when
Mhm.
you're making that case about it being back away from 3A, it solves the problem, right?
Yep.
And then you just have that slide. You can use it again for another scenario,
Sure.
however you wanna do it.
I
They're
wonder
just
if we
there.
do it like this, stay with me here, I wonder if we move why a new building is right up one and the educational impact after, right? And then while we're on Dan can display the pictures and talk through the pictures about the different views.
I think the classroom ones could
Yeah.
definitely work for
Dan.
Dan.
Mhm.
The other ones, yeah, could go for Dan or someone else too.
We don't really have classroom ones here. There are
Well,
some.
the
the
layout,
floor- the
the
floor
layout.
plan.
Dan can talk about the
Yeah,
importance
the
of the layout,
interior
type of
layout.
grade levels.
So I
and-
don't mind moving that around.
But I think
Why
we
a new
had
building is
actual
right before,
images last year too. so-
Before the educational
so
impact.
after the needs, but before the
Right.
educational impact. Yeah,
Again, I'm trying to think of consistency and people walking up and down a podium and
yeah,
change hands and that type of thing.
When people come in, Kyle will have full-size printouts. These will be on boards for the people to see, so
I think Dan is having more of those cards that he had printed up.
he said he would have the cards too.
I'll have those available too. What do you guys think about moving Peter's slide to before Dan's?
I'm fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense?
Which number was Peter's? I'm sorry.
17, and I'm moving 17 up to 16.
You just did it?
Yep, she
Yeah,
did it.
I did it.
Thank you.
So so that becomes, educational impact becomes more of an extension as to why a new building is right. You're now
Yeah.
you're now changing the focus from what's the educational impact
Mm-hmm.
currently of the existing school as compared to why we need it. I don't know. I almost
Yeah, I go-
I
I
almost
go back
wonder
and
whether
forth.
it kind of led into why a new building is right because
Right.
you could talk about the current educational impact
Mm-hmm.
and then branch into how that could change,
Right, with a new building.
and then it sort
Yeah.
of stems into.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think having seen Dan's notes, I think that would flow better.
I'm good with whatever
Okay.
flow. I'm assuming, while we're all speaking on this,
Mm-hmm.
Tina and Matt have been working with facilities and with Dan and with Mike and Doug, obviously, to paint this picture. And so I'm fine with whatever I defer to you guys.
Okay.
My only question in terms of a general overview, and I'm happy to talk this out separately after the meeting, I don't need to necessarily take up a lot of board time with it, is just how much detail do you want on a general overview compared to the fact that we're gonna be getting into a ton of detail? Are we thinking more like the historical, like how many times we've tried to do this in the
Yeah.
past?
I
Why?
think that would
Well,
be,
I'm going to build some of that into the why the time is
I
right.
assume that
Yeah.
some of that's coming there, so that's why I don't wanna take away from that, but I also, I mean, the broad.
I guess the big question
The broad
is,
overview is, we need a new school. Okay, and go.
Well,
And here's why.
And just a reminder with adult learners, you have to say things multiple times, right? There's
we've
nothing
learned,
wrong
we've
with,
learned that.
you know,
Yeah.
you hit the bullet points, but don't say, well, Matt's gonna do that, so I don't need to say it.
Right.
Say it.
Okay.
Give that overview, then it'll be more in-depth from everybody else, it'll be repeated.
Okay.
I think you're okay, laying it out.
Okay. That sounds good. Any other questions on the,
So I guess my question is, so like my plan for my slides is to work on this tomorrow,
Yeah.
obviously, because
Yep.
time is of the essence.
yes.
Are we aiming to like have a final version for everyone to like look through?
Saturday morning at 9 a.m.
my goal would be if we
It's at 9 or
can
10.
close
It's
it.
at 10, but if we can meet earlier to go through everything.
I was
and-
gonna say, if everyone can have their slides done by close of business Friday, and
Yeah.
so therefore we have time on Friday night or early Saturday morning, depending on if
for
you're,
comments.
you know, to look it over or whatever.
Okay.
Again, I don't feel the need to micromanage this. I trust every board member to carry their part on this, and we all know our parts. So I think you including whatever information you feel is relevant to your piece. Or, and I'm fine with this, making suggestions to the others if you think they missed something,
Sure.
or,
I just don't want to blindside Peter and be like, hey, you're doing 6 slides, so get on that.
yeah, and,
Yeah.
Well, I think, yeah. Okay.
But yeah, we're all here to support each other and figure this out, so.
So I'm gonna just point something out. I don't have an assignment, which is awesome. Doug doesn't have an assignment, which is awesome.
That's great.
This really should be the board doing the
I agree.
presentation. But we're there to support you, so
Yeah.
don't be, I said, toss something the way of Kyle or Keith. Obviously, if there are budget things
Yeah.
that Andrew's not comfortable with, Doug is able to go up and address. I think you were at the podium several times last year, so don't be shy about asking us.
You have a little assignment, because you are gonna do some more slides.
Yeah, but I'm talking about Saturday.
Presentation
Saturday I
wise,
can
yeah.
wear
Just making sure you know that
a
there's.
Hawaiian shirt and just sit
Yeah,
there
yeah.
and be calm, so. Joke. All right,
I think
anything
that was
else?
at the podium a lot because we were having that difference between the defaults.
Yeah.
And
Right.
there was a very large difference between the two budgets and trying to make
It's a big question,
clear
a lot of questions.
why. You know, again, I think you'd probably speak the most to Article 2.
The land purchase was on there too, we had a lot of questions about that.
Yeah, so we'll tee up the best we can, get the stuff in there. We have capacity to work on that tomorrow, and
Thank you.
I'm actually at the statewide meeting Friday, but I can look at stuff Friday afternoon, and
I probably am gonna be honest, I have a mediation most of the day tomorrow. I'm not gonna get to mine until Friday morning. I blocked Friday morning
This
for
is
this.
tomorrow night for me.
Yeah. Anything else on the actual deliberative presentation? In terms of key dates, obviously there are 2 key dates left. I am going to again make a plea, not an electioneering, but not telling you how to vote, but we really need people at the deliberative session. We need pro or con, however it is, there needs to be bodies there, parents and families and taxpayers need to come. I think there is gonna be a higher attendance than what was at the town, but it is such a critical, again, I will repeat my story from my first deliberative, when I went there and we got through the budget and, you know, there's some tweaks and votes and we, as a town, voted. We thought the budget was done. And then later on, people left because they thought the budget was done, and it was not closed to further. There's a motion for it. Motion
Further
to
discussion.
to limit the
Yeah.
reviewing it again. I don't know what it is,
Yeah, we should find that out.
but it came up later. So
We will know what that is, by Saturday.
we'll know
Yes.
again. Yeah, and it was really important because it ended up getting changed.
later in the meeting, because
Later in the
they
meeting.
didn't,
There
invoke
was
the
no
RSA
motion
41,
to
whatever.
close comment or
Yep,
rescind.
restrict reconsideration.
There it is.
Strict reconsideration,
There
yeah.
was no motion to restrict reconsideration, and shortly thereafter, the same conversation that had happened before came up again, but there was a different makeup in the audience at that point.
Wow.
And so, again, just having bodies there and just
Well,
doing your civic duty and being there is important.
And I will remind the board that you are voters. You can restrict reconsideration. You don't have to wait or rely on somebody to get to the podium to do it, or the mic to do it. You can, I would suggest that there's something that, that gets settled in a way that the board is comfortable with, you restrict it
Yeah,
right
we've
away.
done that in the
So
past.
just do it, take the bull by the horns.
It's really important that people come be part of the discussion.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of important things on here, and they don't go away by you avoiding voting or participating. It's better to be part of the discussion and get your questions answered, because it's really important that people start to understand that these things are not going away and we have to solve them somehow, so.
Some way, yeah. Anyway, so that's my plea, I think the board's plea, I think, you know, all the town's plea to have as many people there as possible, because while voting day is key and people know what a ballot is and how to show up and vote, I'm not sure as many people understand the importance of deliberative session and the impact that can have on what is actually on the ballot for voting day. Speaking of, and I wanna make sure I understand this, and maybe this is, again, another discussion, but my understanding is the language of Article 1, the dollar amount can't be changed, correct?
That's correct.
That is correct.
That is,
Well, actually, what can be changed about Article 1? Because I
So the total dollar amount cannot be changed, because that would change the whole purpose of the article. So, I mean, people possibly could shift money around and say, do less in bonds and more in upfront taxes type of thing. But
But
the total amount cannot change.
But we don't have any appropriations in that, in Article 1
The whole,
at this
well,
point, right? I
whole
mean,
amount
we're
is
not
in-
raising and appropriating money to,
well, we're appropriating the whole amount, and then
Right.
we're raising
We're raising
we're
the
raising the money for the first,
oh, the
First.
53?
Yeah.
Okay.
yep.
and then Article 2 is obviously fair game, that being the operating budget, things can shift and move to be added or subtracted.
Within
There.
a percent, though, within 10% of,
Okay.
of a formula. So,
Okay.
I mean, that's the reason why we also have Gordon, our lawyer, at
Yeah.
there too, to make sure that, if someone is making a suggestion from the board, it will carry forward.
My understanding from past deliberatives is that the LEA contract can, like the amounts
Right.
cannot be amended.
Collective bargaining
They agree-
cannot.
Cannot.
So the collective bargaining is what we agreed to.
Yeah.
The voters can say yes or no. That's
Correct.
not
Is that included in both LEA and LSSA?
correct.
Okay.
Because that's a contract.
Yep.
And they can't change Article 4. They can just vote yes or no on 4 and 6.
And 6. So 7, 8, and 9, and 2 are the ones that are subject to the most to possible changes.
Yeah.
The most likely. Okay. All right, Mr. Cutter, you had asked to discuss the budget committee meeting.
Yeah, just one item, right?
Yep.
I'm sorry, on the budget committee meeting. I guess we already covered it, right? But the budget committee did vote 5-4 on warrant Article 1. That's the latest update, right? I did make a plea to the budget committee that was read into the minutes and at the meeting, and the end result was 5-4 vote. So that's just what I wanted to brief the board on.
Thank you.
Andrew, if I may, I appreciated reading your comments in advance, and I think you did a very good job kind of structuring and making an appeal to them. So I was a little disappointed. I was hoping for at least a 6-3 vote personally, kind of symbolically along the 2/3 vote. But, you know, I also know, having sat and listened to budget committee members, I wasn't surprised by a 5-4, but thank you for everything you did, because you were certainly trying to get them to recognize this isn't going away. It's not gonna be cheaper.
Right.
So from a budget committee thing, you kinda gotta hold your nose and just accept where we are. And, so thank you for that effort.
Yeah, no problem. Happy to do it.
Was there anything else on that committee report? I think that you just wanted to do the
That's it.
5-4.
That was it.
Okay, perfect. So that moves us into school board comments.
I did have one comment, pulling back up on a previous board meeting and a conversation. I think we were trying to arrange a meeting with the select board. I just didn't know where we were with that.
We haven't gotten very far on that, but
Okay.
we will try.
Okay, thank you.
I think, I mean, it's just worth saying it out loud, right? Coming off the budget committee report and off that question, I'm really hoping that there's gonna come a day where there can be less divisiveness between the boards. You know, it's interesting to watch other boards get publicly skewered on things that are just off base. And you know, I'm granted I'm the energy committee rep for our board, right? So I did have some knowledge about it, but I felt the need to stand up and speak in favor of that at the town deliberative, because I felt like the selectmen were doing a really good thing for the town by putting that forward. And I want to show my support, both as a citizen and as a member of another board, and I hope that there will come a time where they feel inclined to try to take a look at the stuff that we're doing. Same thing with the budget committee. You know, it's disappointing to hear budget committee members continue to make comments about things like our operating budget and us showing a reduction. Like, we hate that we're showing a reduction. I don't think there's one of us on this board that wants that to be the case, but we are forced for that to be the case. We're trying to be very clear about that. But I've heard budget committee members say, it's disingenuous. You're doing that intentionally. You're putting it on intentionally. I'd like to get to a place where we can at least recognize that there isn't bad will, and maybe we can all work together. You know, Ms. Douglas brought forth an idea for funding, right? That's a great idea, but we've had a lot of public opportunity to participate. It would have been really, really nice to bring that forward if you were genuine about wanting to you know, bring forth good ideas and have an open dialogue. That would have been a really awesome thing to bring forward. You know, in I guess since she brought that up, in response to that, I am of the personal belief that unlike if you're planning a renovation on your own personal home, right, looking at your own personal finances, that's a different analysis, in my opinion, than municipal finances. I think that it makes the most sense to limit what you pay total as an individual. As a tax base, I think that there is some benefit to spreading out over more generations of taxpayers for certain things. I also think that in a year, her idea was front load $2 million and ask for it on a warrant. I think that adding even more pain to the taxpayer in a year where we have higher taxes, I don't think that that's the right thing to do. But it was a viable, decent idea to propose. I would have loved to have had the opportunity to engage in that discussion in a public forum, as opposed to it being the basis for knocking down something that we're trying very hard to work together on. So I'm going to make the public plea to the selectmen. I'm going to make the public plea to the budget committee again. We want to have the conversations. We are open and willing to have the conversations. We are, trying very hard to show our support for all of you, and hopefully that can be extended the same way to us.
Excellent. Any other school board comments? No? Okay, moving into our second community input, which.
Sorry, just back to the manifest for a second. So
Oh, you're right.
during manifest review, we were asked a question about a teacher who has left the district and the payment that was made.
Thank you. Yes.
And the answer is, and I was sort of right, but I want to really nail this down. So remember, teachers select to get paid during the school year and then get the balloon payment at the end of the year that covers summer. So because the individual teacher had selected that, it's almost like a deferred payment. But then you have to take that deferred into the balloon and bring it back into the current year to pay out for the actual days per diem that they've worked. And so that's why there was that payment. It was like the deferred money to get through the summer has now been paid out.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I skipped manifest because we were at 8 o'clock. Now we're at 8:02.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Community input. So again, I'd like to open the floor to any community input on any, it doesn't have to be an agenda item for the second community input.
Anyone?
Students, do you have anything to add or ask questions about?
Anthony or Nick, I am curious, neither of you are 18, I assume, but is there ever conversation about, our 18-year-old students who have the right to participate in the democratic process, voting, town meetings, et cetera? Does student council do anything to reach out to our students?
About going to the meetings about the new school
Yeah.
like that.
Registering to vote.
Registering to vote.
Yeah.
So, and come March 12th, right? They can vote.
Yeah, I mean, my friends that I know that are seniors and are 18, they're going to vote, but they're not committing it. They're not committing to the community stuff. They're only going to the elections. They don't really care about the new elementary school and stuff like that. But yeah, they are voting for the primaries and stuff. So
Perfect.
Student council hasn't brought up anything to the 18-year-olds about it either.
I would just encourage you to have the dialogue because, first time I ever voted was when I was 18 and in high school, and I think it was a school election. And it's just, and I've never missed an election since then. So I would just encourage you to, make sure that people understand because to me it's a responsibility. Like when you turn 18, you get some extra responsibilities like registering for selective service and all the other things that go with it. But also you got to have your voice heard. So anything you can do to help promote that with.
That's how Mr. McDonough.
We got a sliver of population at the high school, but they certainly should be aware of what the options and opportunities are. Yeah. Thank you.
Alrighty, I will go ahead and close community input for the night. With that, we are ready to go into our non-public session pursuant to RSA 91A:3, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee, or the disciplining of such employee, or the investigation of any charges against him, unless the employee affected, 1, has a right to a meeting, and 2, requests that that meeting be open, in which case that the request be granted. B, the hiring of any person as a public employee. C, matters which if discussed in public would likely adversely affect the reputation of any person other than a member of the body or agency itself, unless such person requests an open meeting. And then for D through I, we see citation. Is there a motion to go
So
into
moved.
non-public for tonight? There is.
I'll second.
And they're seconded. Just to be clear what we are going into non-public for, it would be pursuant to A, the dismissal, promotion, and compensation, as well as B, the hiring, and C, matters which if discussed in public, we have the trifecta tonight. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor of going into non-public, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Thank you for either virtually attending or watching at a later time. Our next school board meeting will be February 21st at 5:30 here. Again, we encourage questions, we encourage comments, and we absolutely encourage participation at both the deliberative as well as our meetings. Thanks very much, and hope everyone has a great night.
Thank you.
You
Thank
guys
you,
are
guys.
free.